Chapter 21, 86,000 times the fighting power. Secret skills of Star Palace, also known as secret skill of 7-star, originated from 7-star Black Sect. Back in the ancient past, there had been numerous experts from the 7-star Black Sect. Their understanding and usage of the secret skill of 7-star had reached incredible levels. These powerful experts formed the 7-star Black Sect, had managed to infuse star power into their blood essence. Emperor 13 was the leader of the 7 stars and cultivated the secret skill of 7-star. However, the restriction by this heaven and earth was far too large for him. He could not use most of his fighting power and most of his secret skills. It was not only difficult to cast secret skill of 7-star. Emperor 13 would not be able to cast 9-star armor, like how Emperor Bai did. If Emperor 13 could use these techniques, he could kill Blood Emperor easily, even though he was a mere half-step divine demon expert. Sadly, he could not. However, even though he could not cast secret skill of 7-star, his blood essence, which was concentrated in star power, was very useful for Jian Wushuang. Just like the creator of Lineage of Star, the late Star Palace Master, he could make use of the blood essence of an expert from 7-star Black Sect to his secret skill of 7-star to last for a long time. This was why the Star Palace Master had managed to wreak havoc on the battlefield. However, as the amount of the blood essence started to decrease, Lineage of Star was exposed to greater danger. Jian Wushuang received the same type of blood essence. Half an hour. The secret skill would last for half an hour. Jian Wushuang widened his eyes. His aura erupted and became even stronger as he absorbed the star power. The experts from the eternal chaotic world saw Emperor 13 throw something towards Jian Wushuang, but did not see what exactly it was. They did not know what Emperor 13 was trying to do. Suddenly, a terrifying aura exploded on the battlefield. The experts from the eternal chaotic world all looked over towards Jian Wushuang. This is Sword Emperor. This aura belongs to Sword Emperor. What a terrifying aura. Why has the Sword Emperor's aura grown so much? Everyone looked at Jian Wushuang, surprised. It was no surprise that they were surprised. After Jian Wushuang had cast the 3rd scroll of secret skills of Star Palace, his fighting power had become 1,000 times more powerful than before. Jian Wushuang was already very powerful and was considered one of the stronger Stage 3 great emperors. Now, his fighting power had grown by 1,000 times again. How powerful would that be? Jian Wushuang. Emperor Bai stared at Jian Wushuang closely. He could clearly sense that the aura that was radiating from Jian Wushuang was stronger than him even after he cast secret skills of Star Palace, 9-star armor, and his other trump cards. It was on a different level. This feeling, Jian Wushuang clenched his fist as he sensed his newfound powers. He was excited. Back at the Imperial City, Jian Wushuang had cast the 3rd scroll of the secret skills of Star Palace once to destroy the Supreme Emperor Stone. He was not as powerful then, and the duration of that one sword skill was so short he could not experience his new powers. As Emperor 13 gave him his blood essence, the saturated star power could allow that secret skill to last at least 30 minutes. Hence, he had a chance to sense his newfound powers. My current power should be at the level of peak chaotic divine demon realm, or even stronger. Jian Wushuang exclaimed to himself. There was no way great emperors could do anything in the face of this absolute power. It was no wonder that an expert in the chaotic divine demon realm was so much more powerful than one in the chaotic realm. After familiarizing himself with his new powers, Jian Wushuang raised his head and locked his vision onto Blood Emperor. This man must die, Jian Wushuang swore, silently as he gripped his Blood Mountain sword tightly. He turned into a shooting star as he flew towards his target. Even Emperor Bai could not intervene in the battle between Emperor 13 and Blood Emperor. But now, Jian Wushuang attacked. Hum, hum. The sea of crimson red filled the entire space as the countless souls within howled in agony. Blood Emperor was the master of the sea of crimson red. He held his crimson red spear as it thrust out as blood-red lightning. He grew in size. Air that radiated gloom spread out in all directions. On the other hand, Emperor 13 was like an ice mountain. He continued to swing the sword in his hands. The sword lights created were either extremely dim or extremely bright. Some of them were overpowering, while others felt like there was no energy in them. His sword principle captured the hearts and minds of many of the spectators. The two were in the middle of a heated battle. Suddenly, a figure ventured onto the battlefield. This man was Jian Wushuang. He ignored the divine power storm and ventured into the heart of the battlefield. The blood mountain sword in his hands had a terrifying aura. Hua, a sword light, appeared out of nowhere. This sword light looked so simple, so amateur as compared to that of Emperor 13's. However, the power it contained was at least equal to, if not stronger than, the sword light Emperor 13 had created. Once the sword light appeared, the space in front of it was torn into half. A gigantic crack appeared in heaven and earth. At the center of the crack, there was a storm of powerful sword lights that was flying towards Blood Emperor. Blood Emperor looked over as he felt something was different about the space around him. When he saw it was Jian Wushuang who had cast the sword skill, he looked at him in disdain and said, "How dare a mere mortal like you stand up to an almighty like me? Scram!" Blood Emperor yelled as the crimson red spear swept out towards Jian Wushuang. This brought along layers of crimson shadow. It was like a dragon as it smashed towards Jian Wushuang. After sweeping his spear at Jian Wushuang, the Blood Emperor turned his head and continued to look at Emperor 13 coldly. He only took Emperor 13 seriously. As for Jian Wushuang, he was a mere ant that he could have killed easily. If not for his unique constitution, the Blood Emperor would have killed Jian Wushuang already, right when the Crimson Dragon collided with the sword light head-on. Chapter 2187, Unworthy Opponent. Blood Emperor could sense the terrifying power as the surrounding crimson red power concentrated on his crimson red spear. His spear was made of special materials and was almost indestructible. Under the impact, it bent into an arc. He himself backed off from the strong impact. Blood Emperor was surprised, while Emperor 13 was shocked. Whoosh! Emperor 13 appeared in front of Blood Emperor like a ghost as a strange sword light appeared. It went straight for his throat. The speed was incredibly fast as it threatened to penetrate the throat. Right then, the crimson red light on Blood Emperor turned dark. Uffed! The strange sword light penetrated Blood Emperor's throat and completely destroyed his body. However, there was no blood at all. The body turned into a bloody mist and dissipated. In a space not too far away, Blood Emperor dematerialized. He looked mean and scary. He looked up at Jian Wushuang and exclaimed, "This aura, it is a secret skill of 7-star. Even though the secret skill of 7-star is powerful, it does not make sense that it is so much more powerful, especially in his power." Blood Emperor was dumbfounded. The power of the sword of Jian Wushuang gave him a shock. In terms of power, he felt that Jian Wushuang could overpower him. But Blood Emperor had already reached the chaotic divine demon realm. Jian Wushuang stared at Blood Emperor. What a weird technique. The sword light by Emperor 13 was about to kill him, and yet he could escape unharmed. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself in pity. That was a good chance to kill Blood Emperor, but he had dodged the bullet to his head. As for Emperor 13, he was still indifferent and calm. It was as though he had foreseen that Blood Emperor would do that. Even if I failed once, there is always a second try. With my current fighting power, I believe that I can kill him with the help of Emperor 13. Jian Wushuang's aura boiled as the 7 Hongjun golden swords burst forth instantly. It was the same 7 Hongjun golden swords and the same understanding of the space-time sword principle, but his power level had increased. As of his current power level, each of the 7 Hongjun golden swords had reached the power level of the chaotic divine demon realm. Any of these swords could suppress Emperor by easily, and there were a total of 7. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The 7 beams of golden light appeared around Blood Emperor at the same time. They attacked him from 7 different angles. Jian Wushuang's size grew. We could clearly see the 9 heads and 18 arms coming out of his well-built body. He took a step, clearly indicating that he wanted to engage in close-range combat. Blood Emperor squinted his eyes as he moved his body slightly. The 7 Hongjun golden swords passed by him without even touching his clothes. Blood Emperor was not afraid when he saw Jian Wushuang charging at him with a well-built body. He held his spear in one hand as crimson red mist spread out once more. Following that, spear lights filled the entire space. Each spear was like a venomous snake coming out of its nest, silent and stealthily. Each was incredibly fast. Most importantly, each spear radiated a thick aura of rules of order. Blood Emperor only had 2 arms and could only wield 1 spear. Jian Wushuang had 18 arms and swords. Furthermore, he made use of the special fighting technique unique to the ancient god clan. Even so, a scene that made Jian Wushuang widen his eyes in shock happened. Blood Emperor suppressed Jian Wushuang with a single spear. It was completely one-sided. At first, Blood Emperor had been very serious. As time passed, he had become more casual. Using his spear, he thrusted, flicked, sweeped, and even smashed at Jian Wushuang. Even though it looked casual, every attack was almost perfect. Jian Wushuang felt that his swordsmanship was useless in the face of these spears. Not only swordsmanship, he could not even fully utilize his power. How can this be the case? Jian Wushuang frowned. Even though I am more powerful than him, I am being suppressed. I have already utilized my ancient god body, cast ancient god secret skills, and maximized my close combat abilities. Jian Wushuang was shocked. He knew that the attacks from Emperor 13 and Blood Emperor were extremely complex and powerful. However, no matter how powerful it was, Jian Wushuang should have been able to hold his ground using 18 arms and the fighting techniques of the ancient god clan. The results? Unbelievable. He possesses incredible spear skills. Furthermore, his fighting techniques, consciousness, and ability to make decisions are far superior than mine. So, this is a superpower from the ancient past. Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. In the space nearby, Emperor 13 stood there coldly. He witnessed the battle between Jian Wushuang and Blood Emperor, but did not interfere at all. However, Blood Emperor was getting impatient. At the end of a day, an ant is still an ant. Even if the ant possesses incredible power, it does not know how to use it at all. Blood Emperor mocked. He started to swing his crimson spear even faster. It became 30% faster. However, Jian Wushuang was not able to handle this increase in speed. Uft! The crimson spear collided with the holy body of Jian Wushuang. Even with the 5-gem armor, a hole was pierced in his holy body. He backed off immediately. While he was backing off, the divine power within Jian Wushuang swept out and healed his injury. Jian Wushuang stood there once again, studying Blood Emperor with shock in his eyes. You cannot beat him with fighting technique alone. Emperor 13 finally spoke, casually. Jian Wushuang sighed and agreed. Jian Wushuang's power was stronger than Blood Emperor's after casting secret skills of Star Palace to increase his fighting power by 1,000 times. Based on the power advantage alone, it was impossible to defeat the Blood Emperor and kill him head-on. Blood Emperor's experience, spear skills, and understanding of rules of order were far superior to his. If I cannot win by fighting techniques, I shall use brute force, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Chapter 2188 Mountain River Map. Out. It was silent on the battlefield. Blood Emperor stood there holding his spear as though he was the ruler of the sea of crimson red. Jian Wushuang and Emperor 13 stood a distance away, staring intently at Blood Emperor. Ha ha, what a pity. Blood Emperor laughed and broke the silence. Blood Emperor stared at Emperor 13 and smiled coldly. Emperor 13, what a pity. You could have killed me if the power this brat has now is in your control. It looks like fate is on my side today. With the power you mastered at half-step divine demon realm, all you can do is go even with me. You cannot kill me. As for Jian Wushuang, he only has power. His own fighting is far too weak to pose a threat to me. Blood Emperor mocked. The effect of two different people using the exact same power could be vastly different. For example, for the same amount of power of the weakest real god, an almighty or great emperor could use that power, but have the fighting power of a peak real god. If a weak universe god had the power of a peak real god, the battle power he could use would only be around that of an ordinary real god. This was the difference. Jian Wushuang and Emperor 13 was an obvious example. Emperor 13 was simply in the half-step divine demon realm, yet his battle power was on par with Blood Emperor, who was in the chaotic divine demon realm. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang was too weak for the top-tier experts from the ancient past. Even if he had extraordinary power from casting secret skills of Star Palace, the fighting power he had was still weaker than that of Blood Emperor. Emperor 13, I respect your fighting power. It is a pity that there is no way that both of you can kill me. Hence, all you can do is to stay there and watch me destroy this world. Blood Emperor laughed delightfully. He felt it was a pity that he was not able to kill Emperor 13. However, he felt elated that a superpower like Emperor 13 had suffered. Hearing this, Emperor 13 had no reaction. Jian Wushuang looked up and said, Blood Emperor, it might be too early for you to be happy. Oh. Blood Emperor looked over at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang stopped talking as he whipped out a scroll. This scroll looked ordinary. However, it radiated an ancient and unique aura. After the scroll appeared, Jian Wushuang channeled his divine power and tossed this scroll high up into the sky. The scroll merged with heaven and earth instantly. Hum, hum. A special light was seen high up in the sky as something occurred. Everyone looked up at the sky. The sky was blood red, had been empty. Now, the space was filled. It was filled by a gigantic and beautiful picture scroll world. This picture scroll world occupied the entire sky as it turned into life. An ancient and majestic aura came from within the picture scroll world. One could even hear soft chimes. Every chime calmed people's minds and made them forget the negative thoughts. The experts standing below stared at this picture scroll world, and they saw an endlessly large world. This world had mountains and streams. The scenery was awesome as well. Within this world, what attracted the most attention were the 9 continents that were spread out at the different ends of the world. Each of the 9 continents had countless cities and humans. Every human on the continent was very realistic and radiated aura that belonged to cultivators. It was as though the picture scroll had come to life. The picture scroll world was alive. If people did not see Jian Wushuang taking out this treasure with their own eyes, they would think the picture scroll was a real world. My power grew. The mountain river map seems even more realistic when I use it with full force. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. Mountain river map was one of his many trump cards. It was also the strongest treasure he had. This treasure came from his master, Xian Yi. He had used the mountain river map many times before. During those times, this mountain river map had not felt so realistic. The aura was also much stronger now. This is the mountain river map belonging to the 7-star black sect. Blood Emperor Iris constricted in shock when he saw the mountain river map. This is the mountain river map. No matter the aura or the way to activate it, it is exactly the same as back then. The strongest treasure that the 7-star black sect has is in the hands of this brat. Blood Emperor looked at Jian Wushuang, indecisive of what he should do next. The mountain river map had been very famous back in the ancient past. Now, in the second era, a brat in the chaotic realm could wield it. Was this possible? Jian Wushuang ignored the Blood Emperor. With my current fighting power, how many seals can I cast? How powerful could they be? Jian Wushuang thought to himself as he anticipated the results. Let's try. Jian Wushuang attacked without hesitation. A continuous stream of divine power surged up towards the picture scroll world. There was star power mincing with the divine power. Immediately, an overbearing aura radiated from the picture scroll world. The picture scroll world had 9 continents. One of the continents looked like it had come alive as it moved within the picture scroll world. 9 province seal, the 4th seal, seal of clouds. The 4th seal, seal of clouds, descended under the control of Jian Wushuang. The large province came down slowly. The sky turned dark immediately. Everyone looked up and stared at the majestic continent that was descending towards them. No one spoke as everyone was tense. There was silence. The only sound that could be heard was of heavy breathing. No one from the eternal chaotic world could stop this seal. Chapter 2189-9 Province Seal. Boom. The majestic continent descended. The majestic continent covered too big an area, and the suppressing power was incredible. Blood Emperor was located at the center of this majestic continent and had nowhere to run. He could only fight it head-on. Humph! Blood Emperor grunted as he turned gloomy. The mountain river map is an incredible treasure. However, its true power can only be used by a real expert. As for you, you can only cast the weakest skill for this mountain river map, the 9 province seal. Furthermore, you can't even cast the complete 9 province seal. You can never kill me with just this power. Blood Emperor pointed his spear towards the incoming continent. A crimson-red light appeared the moment he pointed his spear. This crimson light looked like it could destroy everything in this world as it charged into the incoming continent. The bottom of the continent was penetrated instantly as it crumbled into pieces and dispersed in all directions. Seeing this, the experts from the eternal chaotic world were shocked. How is this possible? He stopped such a powerful attack so easily. The Blood Emperor is far too strong. The experts exclaimed in surprise. At the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang remained indifferent. Compared to before, this 4th seal is much stronger now. However, it is impossible for this to kill the Blood Emperor. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He knew that the 4th seal, seal of clouds, could not harm the Blood Emperor. He had cast it to test how powerful his 9-province seal was. What followed was the real deal. Boom. Limitless amounts of divine power boiled. Jian Wushuang started to make various hand signs. Another majestic province descended from the picture scroll world. The aura was even stronger and terrifying. This was the 5th seal of the 9-province seal. What a joke! The Blood Emperor roared, not afraid. A limitless amount of blood qi started to boil as the boundless sea of blood appeared again. The sea of blood was endless. Blood Emperor was at the center of the sea of blood. Large amounts of blood gathered to form a gigantic exotic beast. This exotic beast looked like it was invincible. The moment the beast was formed, a deafening roar was heard from the sea of blood and reverberated throughout the battlefield. The sound waves swept out in all directions. Many of the experts from the eternal chaotic world covered their ears even though they were far away from the battlefield. Those who reacted slower experienced bleeding from their eardrums. Those experts who were on this battlefield were at least in the chaotic realm. After the roar, the exotic beast raised its hands up high. The majestic province was held up and could not descend further. The 5th seal dissipated after the power was used up. Even the 5th seal cannot hurt him. Jian Wushuang thought to himself as he squinted his eyes. He could not cast the 5th seal with his own power. Now, he had the secret skills of Star Palace active, which enabled him to cast this seal. He never thought that the Blood Emperor could stop this attack so easily. Next up, Jian Wushuang made more unique hand signs. His divine power and star power were absorbed by the picture scroll world at an insane rate. Within moments, the 6th seal of the 9-province seal descended. The 6th seal, Blood Emperor, was taken aback. The mountain river map was infamous for its several powerful skills. Even though the 9-province seal was the most ordinary skill in the mountain river map, it was definitely powerful when it was used against experts in the chaotic divine demon realm. The Blood Emperor took this attack seriously. Come, come! The Blood Emperor roared madly. The sea of blood started to turn violent as dark crimson armor appeared. The same armor appeared on the gigantic exotic beast as well. The exotic beast roared in anger. This exotic beast raised its hands once again in an attempt to stop the 6th seal. However, the 6th seal in the 9-province seal was at least 5 times as powerful as the 5th. The exotic beast could stop the 5th seal, but the 6th seal, boom. The crimson armor of the exotic beast turned dark, and the blood qi started to escape from the body once the seal collided with the exotic beast. Within moments, a loud boom was heard. The gigantic ancient blood beast crumbled under the pressure of the 6th seal. The remaining power was headed straight for Blood Emperor. Boom! The earth was split apart, and the entire Blood Emperor sanctuary grounds was destroyed. What was left was a humongous crater so deep that one could not see the bottom. At the center of the crater, a figure stood, battered. This figure was the Blood Emperor. At this moment, his clothes were ripped and wounds could be seen on his crimson skin. There were bloodstains around his mouth as well. Even so, he was not angry. He smiled wantonly. Haha, not bad. The 6th seal. Is that it? Blood Emperor sounded like he was crazy. The surrounding experts fell silent when they saw this. The 6th seal that Jian Wushuang had cast could only cause light injuries to Blood Emperor. To kill him, the power of the 6th seal is not enough. Unless he has the 7th seal, Emperor 13 looked over at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was slightly depressed. He had to admit he had underestimated the fighting power of Blood Emperor and the techniques the experts from the ancient past had had. Even though the Blood Emperor was not in prime condition and was only in the chaotic divine demon realm, it would not be easy to kill him. The sixth seal did not manage to kill him. As for the seventh seal, the mountain river map had 9 seals representing 9 states. Every 3 seals was a bottleneck, as the next seal would be much more powerful and require much more divine power to cast. Jian Wushuang could barely cast the 6th seal. As for the 7th seal, not enough with the amount of divine power I have now. I cannot cast the 7th seal. Jian Wushuang roared. All 9 ancient god stars crumbled in the next moment. Boom, boom, boom. They crumbled one after another. Chapter 2190. Goodbye. Out of the 9 ancient god stars, he had destroyed 4 of them. The 4 stars turned into bloodline power that Jian Wushuang could use. Not enough. This is far from enough. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. Then boom, 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 boom. The remaining 5 stars crumbled together. Every single one of the 9 stars crumbled. He was betting everything he had. Instantly, ancient god's bloodline power erupted within his body as this power multiplied. Even so, Jian Wushuang realized he could not cast the 7th seal. Even after all 9 stars crumbled, I can't cast the 7th seal? Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. The difference between the 6th and the 7th seal was far too great. The amount of power needed to cast the 7th seal was much more than that needed for the 6th. Not enough. I need more power. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists as determination started to burn in his eyes. He had already used most of his trump cards. He had even used star destruction skill to its fullest and destroyed all 9 stars. However, he still required more power. At this moment, there was only one way left for him to cast the 7th seal. Jian Wushuang stood there, determined. He looked up slowly. He was not looking at Blood Emperor or Emperor 13. He focused his vision on a beautiful figure some distance away. That figure was Lung Rushue. Looking at that figure, his heart burned. Sorry, Lung Wushuang. Jian Wushuang said silently to himself. However, it was like this sentence had been transmitted into the sleeping consciousness of the beautiful figure far away. Lung Rushue stood there quietly. However, when she saw Jian Wushuang's eyes, she shuddered. Emperor Bai, please take care of Greenfire World for me. Jian Wushuang said as his voice reverberated throughout the battlefield. Jian Wushuang, what are you saying? Emperor Bai asked, knitting his eyebrows. Jian Wushuang did not elaborate. He continued to scan the experts from the eternal chaotic world. Goodbye, everyone. Instantly, a vast amount of soul power erupted. The limitless amount of soul power was like oil meeting fire. It was set ablaze. This is Emperor Bai turned pale. Soul ignition. The experts from the eternal chaotic world were shocked as exclamations could be heard everywhere. Soul ignition, a technique that would only be used in a situation where one would definitely die to do the most amount of damage to their opponents. Before Emperor 13 reached them, the experts from the eternal chaotic world were prepared to cast soul ignition to sacrifice everything to defend their home. They did not do so as Emperor 13 had arrived and seen hope. However, under the clear view of everyone, Jian Wushuang had used this technique. Jian Wushuang was trying to drag Blood Emperor down with him. 9 Province Seal, the 7th seal. After casting soul ignition, Jian Wushuang's power multiplied again. The limitless amount of divine power and bloodline power were fully utilized. Jian Wushuang's flushed face was twisted fiercely. With that expression, Jian Wushuang made seals using his hands. Jian Wushuang then forcefully used 3 of his own blood essences to further increase his power. He barely met the minimum requirement to cast the seventh seal. Jian Wushuang used everything he had and every single drop of energy, as all of this power gushed into the seal up in the sky. A limitless amount of energy poured in. Finally, an even more gigantic province appeared from the picture scroll world and descended. Dong, 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 dong. Ancient chimes could be heard as they reverberated throughout heaven and earth. These chimes contained a special magic to it, as it calmed everyone's mind. These chimes originated from the large province. At that instant, the entire battlefield fell silent. Dead silent. Every expert there looked up and stared at the gigantic and majestic province. Everyone held their breath. No one said a word. It was not because they did not want to speak. The pressure from the province was so great that no one could open their mouth. Furthermore, the majestic province did not target them, yet they were still under such incredible pressure. It would be hard to imagine how much pressure the Blood Emperor would be facing when the province targeted him. The seventh seal. Emperor 13 looked up and stared at the slowly descending province coldly. A flash of surprise could be seen from his emotionless eyes. "Let me help you," Emperor 13 said. The sword in his hands started to glow bright. It was so bright it looked like a huge sun that was concentrated in energy. Emperor 13 swung his sword. He did not move at all. He pointed his sword at Blood Emperor. Instantly, the large sun, which was made up of sword essence, burst forth and appeared in the space where Blood Emperor was before it exploded. Hum, 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 hum. The entire space turned into a sea of sword essence. This sword essence spread out and crashed towards Blood Emperor from all directions. Blood Emperor received suppression from both the seventh seal and the sea of sword essence. "Is this what we can do?" Emperor 13 squinted his eyes. Blood Emperor looked at Emperor 13 coldly. "Emperor 13, if I am not wrong, this should be one of your 3 strongest sword skills, World of Swords. It is a pity that you are in the realm of half-step divine demon realm, and the power of this sword is so limited." Chapter 2191, Last High Back in the Ancient Past. Blood Emperor was one of the top-tier experts. Even though he could not be compared to a man like Emperor 13, he had still heard of the techniques Emperor 13 had. Emperor 13 had created 3 strongest sword skills. World of Swords was the weakest among them. Even this weakest sword skill could have severely injured or even killed him back in the ancient past. The legendary World of Sword had everything inside: mountains, seas, and forests made up of swords. However, the World of Swords that Emperor 13 had cast only barely formed an incomplete sea of swords. Ha ha! Blood Emperor laughed crazily. Mountain River Map, the 7th seal of the 9 province seal together with the World of Sword. Ha! Come. Why would I be afraid? Blood Emperor looked like he had turned crazy under the suppression of the 7th seal and the surrounding sea of swords. Blood Emperor felt that his life was in danger when targeted by the 7th seal. It was as though in the next moment he was about to be crushed into nothing by the 7th seal. However, the Blood Emperor was not afraid at all. He was the emperor of the Blood Clan and had been one of the top-tier experts back in the ancient past. He had been through the great battle of the ancient past and survived. What could be more dangerous and terrifying than that battle itself? Taboo's secret skill, Blood Slash. First slash. Blood Emperor's voice boomed as the divine power around him boiled and roared. Blood Emperor shuddered as his face turned pale. Second slash. His voice could be heard again as the surrounding sea of crimson red split apart. The spirits and skeletons under the sea of crimson red crumbled. Blood Emperor felt something get stuck in his throat. before he spouted out blood. Third slash. Boom. Heaven and earth froze for a second. Blood Emperor was covered in blood. One of his army exploded and turned into a mist of blood. Blood Clan Taboo's secret skill. Emperor 13's irises constricted with shock. Even though Blood Emperor looked like he was severely injured, Emperor 13 clearly knew he was not. Blood Emperor was in that state due to the price he had to pay to cast the Taboo's secret skill. Even though the cost was huge, Blood Emperor had turned even stronger. Opposing blood formation. Form. Under the influence of the Taboo's secret skill, Blood Emperor, who was in the divine demon realm, had turned even stronger. His terrifying aura had become twice as powerful. The opposing blood formation that encompassed the entire Three Emperors world started to run. A limitless amount of blood chi gathered in front of the Blood Emperor and formed a crimson shield. This shield looked as though it could not be destroyed. "Haha, come." Blood Emperor laughed crazily. He stood behind the large shield as a gigantic crimson exotic beast rose and roared. High up in the air, the province formed from the seventh seal came down with incredible might. It collided with the crimson red shield. Boom. Large amounts of momentum gushed out in all directions. The seventh seal, Jian Wushuang, gave all he had, crumbling 9 ancient god stars, and even casting soul ignition to bet on this one attack. This was Jian Wushuang's last attack. After this attack, he would definitely die. Blood Emperor had paid a heavy price by casting the Taboo's secret skill, just to defend against the seventh seal. He knew that this was the last attack by Jian Wushuang. This was the last chance for Jian Wushuang to kill him. As long as Blood Emperor survived the attack, he could return back to his prime with the help of the opposing blood formation. The plan he had carefully planned for a long time could continue. No one could stop him. He must die. Jian Wushuang had gone crazy long ago. As soul ignition continued, his consciousness slowly started to fade as he turned into a mad demon. He would die eventually, as all living energy would be sucked out of him. He told himself he had a mission, and he had to complete it before he died. That was to kill Blood Emperor. The eternal chaotic world would only be safe if he died. That was his hometown. His friends and families were there. He could not afford to fail. I carefully schemed for so many years and finally got to where I am today. How can I lose to a mere chaotic realm scum? No, that will not happen. That cannot happen. I will not die. Blood Emperor was equally crazy. Jian Wushuang had his reason to kill the Blood Emperor. Blood Emperor also had his reasons to live. Both of them fought head-on. Who would live? Who would die? Or would both of them die? The experts from the eternal chaotic world held their breath as they saw this scene unfold before their eyes. They saw the majestic province crashing into the crimson shield. These two terrifying and devastating forces were fighting against each other. At that moment, everyone clenched their fists. Kill him. He must die. Sword Emperor, our fate lies in your hands. The Sword Emperor has never disappointed us. This time, he too will not disappoint us. These were thoughts that were screaming in the minds of the experts. They knew that Jian Wushuang was their last hope. This attack was Jian Wushuang's last attempt. If Blood Emperor survived this attack, the eternal chaotic world would be done for. At the center of the battlefield, the two terrifying forces were still battling it out. During the collision, the power of both forces got weaker. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. This collision lasted for 5 seconds. Finally, crack! A soft sound was heard. The eyes of the experts from the eternal chaotic world lit up with elation. They saw cracks forming on the seemingly indestructible crimson red shield. Finally, the crimson red shield shattered with a boom. The crimson red shield that Blood Emperor formed using the opposing blood formation was gone. Chapter 2192, a figure broke. The crimson shield broke. Sword Emperor managed to break the opponent's strongest defense skill. Is he going to succeed? The experts from the eternal chaotic world were excited. No, it is not so simple. Even though this attack is extremely powerful, more than 70% of the power was used to break the Crimson Shield. Blood Emperor may be able to defend against the remaining power. He could be severely injured, but not killed. Emperor Bai said, "What?" The experts around turned pale. Even after destroying the Crimson Shield, Blood Emperor could survive this attack? Oh no, it still lacks some power. Emperor 13-2 frowned. At the center of the battlefield, the seventh seal continued to descend on Blood Emperor. Blood Chi continued to erupt from Blood Emperor as the ancient blood beast roared in anger. The Blood Emperor laughed. "Come, let's see if the remaining power from the seventh seal can kill me today. If I survive, all of you will die." Ha ha ha. His crazy laughter reverberated throughout the battlefield. The huge ancient blood beast held up its hands and held on tightly to the descending province. The majestic province descended extremely slowly under the resistance from the ancient blood beast. During the entire process, its power was continuously weakened. If this continued, the seal would not be able to kill the Blood Emperor after it destroyed the ancient blood beast. Sword Emperor gave his all and even cast soul ignition, yet he still failed to kill Blood Emperor? Is the eternal chaotic world done for? Looks like fate decided that the eternal chaotic world should perish today. Howls of bitterness could be heard from the experts from the eternal chaotic world. These experts had no hope left. Even Emperor Bai looked devastated. Jian Wushuang was their last hope. However, this last attack of his did not seem like it could kill Blood Emperor. As for Emperor 13, he could not kill Blood Emperor, even though he had incredible fighting power. If Blood Emperor survived, that meant that they were dead meat. The eternal chaotic world was done for. Many different emotions surfaced at the center of the battlefield. Jian Wushuang turned even more crazy as he lost his consciousness. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared straight at Blood Emperor. Right then, in the majestic province in front of him, a human figure appeared slowly. This figure appeared out of nowhere, with no warning at all. The power of the seventh seal was about to run out, yet a figure had appeared from within at this point in time. Once it appeared, everyone looked over at it. That is, the experts from the eternal chaotic world were stunned as they looked at the figure. It was a well-built man in white clothes. He was smiling brightly and warmly. It felt peaceful. He appeared out of nowhere and had no aura. It was like he was nothing but air. Once people looked at him, they could no longer look away. When he saw the figure who appeared out of nowhere, Blood Emperor frowned. He started to feel uncertain as the bad feeling turned even stronger. Emperor 13-2 was looking at this human figure. This old man. He has got a backup plan. Emperor 13 muttered to himself in a voice only he could hear. As for Jian Wushuang, he was using all his strength to keep himself conscious. At the same time, he recognized this figure who had appeared. "Mas, Master." Jian Wushuang spoke with great difficulty. "Master." Jian Wushuang had only had one master since the day he had started cultivating. This man was Xian Yi. "Hi, little one." Xian Yi smiled and greeted Jian Wushuang. The warm smile caused Jian Wushuang to feel relaxed. Xian Yi then looked down at everyone. When he saw Emperor 13, a glint of surprise flashed over his eyes as he quickly moved his vision. Finally, he fixed his vision on Blood Emperor. "A member of the Blood clan?" "Ha ha." This formation is interesting. It is a pity that this is too malicious, Xiani muttered to himself. At the same time, he noticed the seventh seal of the 9-province seal. There was only about 20% of power left in this seal. With this power, it could severely injure Blood Emperor. However, there was no way it could kill Blood Emperor. My disciple, your master shall help you today, Xiani said as he raised one of his arms slowly on his right index finger. A special energy gathered as it flew towards Blood Emperor. It felt like the energy did not exist at all. He pointed his finger very casually. The experts around the battlefield were curious as to why Xian Yi had done that. They did not understand what the figure was trying to do. He pointed his finger at Blood Emperor. What was next? Why was there no power or momentum felt? The seventh seal of the 9-province seal did not get more powerful. It seemed like nothing had changed. While everyone was curious about why Xian Yi had done that, boom, the space shuddered. The heaven and earth that the experts were in started to crumble at an incredible speed. Yes, it crumbled. Large amounts of space started to collapse in on themselves. Even the earth started to sink. As for the opposing blood formation that covered the entire 3 Emperors world, it started to quickly dissipate and shrink as though it was being suppressed by a terrifying power. Within moments, the opposing blood formation, which covered the entire 3 Emperors world, shrank to the mere size of the Blood Emperor sanctuary grounds. And the shrinking had yet to stop. At the same time, a suppressive power far greater than what anyone had experienced before was felt. This non-specific suppressive power did not belong to any expert. It came from the heavens. It came from the earth. This suppressive power came from heaven and earth. It was the restrictions of heaven and earth. Chapter 2193 finally killed. Impossible. This is not possible. The Blood Emperor yelled hysterically. At that moment, Blood Emperor went mad. As the restrictions of heaven and earth came, his opposing blood formation dissipated straight away. The reason why he could be in the chaotic divine demon realm was due to the opposing blood formation. If the formation dissipated, his power would too. He was originally in the chaotic divine demon realm, before dropping to half-step divine demon realm instantly. He was now in the realm as Emperor 13. As his realm dropped, his overall power and the power of his techniques dropped. Impossible. My opposing blood formation has already shaken this world. Everything was originally peaceful, and I was in the chaotic divine demon realm. Why did the restrictions of heaven and earth increase so suddenly? Blood Emperor widened his eyes in shock as his face twisted in anger. Soon, he locked his vision onto the figure that had just appeared. You. This is all because of you. The Blood Emperor stared at Xian Yi, who stood there smiling. Blood Emperor's irises constricted when he recalled what Xian Yi had just done to influence the restriction of heaven and earth. He could guess his true identity. It's you. It is you. You were that man back then? That is you. The restrictions of heaven and earth exist because of you. Blood Emperor roared in anger as he was in disbelief. While the Blood Emperor was in disbelief, the majestic province descended and crushed the ancient blood beast. The ancient blood beast had been created by the ancient blood beast, and its power was determined by that of the Blood Emperors. Blood Emperor had been in the chaotic divine demon realm before. Hence the ancient blood beast was powerful. Now that the Blood Emperor was in the half-step divine demon, his power dropped, and he could no longer cast many techniques. Under these circumstances, even Emperor 13 could kill him. This was the same for Jian Wushuang, who cast soul ignition and gave his all. As for the seventh seal of the 9-province seal, only about 10% of the total power remained after it crushed the ancient blood beast. However, this power was more than enough to kill the Blood Emperor, who was in the half-step divine demon realm. No, I will not resign myself to my fate. I will not. His yells reverberated throughout the battlefield. The majestic province descended onto the Blood Emperor and completely crushed him. Boom! The terrifying momentum continued to push the province downwards onto the earth. Once the two collided, abundant amounts of divine power swept out in all directions. After a long while, the battlefield turned peaceful once again. As for Blood Emperor, he lay there motionless. A top-tier expert from the ancient past died. He is finally dead. The experts from the eternal chaotic world widened their eyes as they looked at this scene. They had yet to fully comprehend what had just happened. They could not believe their own eyes. Their defeat seemed inevitable. However, the tides of the battle had turned right when Blood Emperor was about to win. After a brief delay, everyone looked up at the two figures floating high up in the air. The two figures were Jian Wushuang and Xian Yi. After the seventh seal of the 9-province seal dissipated, they realized that Xian Yi was simply a blurred mirage. Whoosh! Xian Yi moved forwards towards Jian Wushuang. Little one. Xian Yi smiled warmly. Jian Wushuang could barely keep his eyes open. His consciousness was fading. Xian Yi frowned slightly. He stretched out his palm and pointed to Jian Wushuang's forehead. A unique energy gushed into Jian Wushuang's brain. Instantly, what remaining soul power that Jian Wushuang had stopped burning under the influence of this unique energy. His soul fire was extinguished, and a very small portion of his soul power remained. Seeing this, Xian Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Little one, you are too tired. Sleep well. Xian Yi said softly. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, as though he had heard his master's words. It was a peaceful and relieved smile. Jian Wushuang fell backwards. Xian Yi waved his hand as an unknown force guided Jian Wushuang towards Emperor Bai. Emperor Bai caught Jian Wushuang and stared at Xian Yi with a meaningful look. Xian Yi smiled at Emperor Bai and muttered to himself, "The time is not yet right. It has yet to reach the decisive moment. Luckily, the amount of power I used is small. If not," he shook his head as his body turned transparent. It eventually disappeared from sight. Seeing this, the experts around were confused. They did not know who Xian Yi was, how he had appeared, and why he had disappeared so suddenly. His appearance and disappearance were both without warning. In the eyes of the experts from the eternal chaotic world, Xian Yi was a complete mystery. Emperor 13 would probably be the only man who had the answer to this mystery. Whoosh! In the sky high up above, the beautiful picture scroll world disappeared as it turned into a scroll and fell towards the earth. A figure appeared and caught the mountain river map. This man was Emperor 13. Emperor 13 then appeared in front of Emperor Bai. How is he? Emperor 13 looked at Jian Wushuang's motionless body and asked, "He is in a terrible state. Even though his divine body is unharmed, he has used too much of his soul power and only a small amount remains. He should fall into a deep slumber," Emperor Bai said in a serious tone. This phenomenon should only have appeared in the ancient past. Some experts from the ancient past had control and usage of powerful soul attacks, which could severely wound the soul. If the soul was wounded to a certain extent, it would fall into a deep slumber. It was extremely difficult to wake up from this slumber. Even though he fell into deep slumber, at least his life was preserved. This is all thanks to that man just now who helped to stop soul ignition. If not, Emperor Bai exclaimed. Chapter 2194 Victory. The surrounding experts from the eternal chaotic world took a sharp breath when they heard what Emperor Bai had said. To them, once you cast soul ignition, you were destined for doom. There was no way to stop it. However, that man just now had managed to stop Jian Wushuang's soul ignition and protect a part of his soul. How incredible was that? Emperor 13 looked at Jian Wushuang before tossing the mountain river map and a transmission token over. This is his transmission token. Additionally, that is my transmission token. After he awakens from his deep slumber, ask him to message me. Emperor 13 said coldly. Emperor, Bai received the two items. Since Jian Wushuang was in a deep slumber, he would safely keep these items first. Additionally, this is what I promised. Emperor 13 tossed him a jade bamboo strip. Emperor Bai caught it and took a glance. His eyes lit up in surprise. There was a secret skill carved into the jade bamboo strip. It was the complete version of one of the secret skills he was currently cultivating. Back at the lineage of Star, Emperor 13 had seen that Emperor Bai was cultivating an incomplete secret skill. He had told Emperor Bai that he would give him the complete version of the secret skill if Emperor Bai could take care of Jian Wushuang for a period of time. Thank you, Emperor. Bai thanked Emperor 13. Emperor 13 looked at Emperor Bai indifferently before leaving. After Emperor 13 left, the experts from the eternal chaotic world surrounded Emperor Bai. Everyone was looking at Jian Wushuang. Sword Emperor. What happened to the ancient God Emperor? People like King Chen Xing, Abysmal Saint Master, and Black Dragon Emperor were extremely worried. This was especially the case for Black Dragon Emperor, as her feelings for Jian Wushuang had never changed. Everyone calmed down. Jian Wushuang's soul was wounded, and he went into a deep slumber. As long as there are enough treasures, he can recover. It's just a matter of time. Emperor Bai said. Hearing this, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Emperor Bai, the master of the Holocaust sect, escaped. Ancestor Tianchen said. Emperor Bai raised his eyebrows and looked at the space that she was in. The beautiful figure which was standing there disappeared. Let her go. She should be from the first era. Now that the three Emperor's World's factions are destroyed, I doubt she can cause any trouble for us. Emperor Bai said. Tianchen, what are the losses we suffered during this battle? More than half were either severely injured or dead. 7 of our great emperors died in the battle. They are Purple Moon Emperor, Master Wu, Yenzun, King Zhansong. Ancestor Tianchen read out 7 names. These were the 7 emperors who had died in this battle. On top of that, many Sir Gods and Emperor Gods had died as well. The total number of lives lost was over 2,000. Hearing this, the experts present fell silent. Emperor Bai took a deep breath and said, "They are the heroes of the eternal chaotic world." Yes, heroes. They sacrificed their lives for the eternal chaotic world. Without their sacrifice, the eternal chaotic world would not be around now. The experts around nodded their heads in agreement. Even though we suffered heavy losses during this battle, we won. The eternal chaotic world laughed. Hearing this, the experts who were down were stunned for a moment before they started to smile. Victory! They were victorious. All of the experts from the 3 Emperors' world were dead. The 3 Emperors' world had crumbled and would no longer pose a threat to the eternal chaotic world. The Holocaust sect and the Acheron Palace had been 2 threats that lurked in the dark. Now, these 2 threats were gone. Let's go. Let us go home. Everyone discussed for a moment before they cleaned up the battlefield and left for home. Eternal chaotic world. After the final phase of the war erupted, the eternal chaotic world was at the edge of destruction. The countless cultivators and humans that remained within the eternal chaotic world were unsteady and worried. After the army returned, news of the victory spread like wildfire. Victory! This war had cost the eternal chaotic world dearly, but they had eventually achieved the final victory. After the news spread, the entire eternal chaotic world was celebrating in ecstasy. Many people who had been worried sick finally heaved a sigh or relief. Green Fire World, within Wushuang City. Wushuang, brother. Jian Nantian, Wang Yuan, Su Ro, and many others looked at the weak Jian Wushuang and were worried sick. The experts who had participated in this war were mainly from the eternal chaotic world, as Green Fire World only had one almighty Jian Nantian. He was far too important to the Green Fire World and did not participate in this war. Emperor Bai, how is Jian Wushuang? Wang Yuan asked anxiously. His soul fell into deep slumber. He is in a terrible state, but his life is not in danger. Emperor Bai said. His soul fell into a deep slumber. Wang Yuan frowned. He was the most powerful alchemist in the Green Fire World. His standard was also considered top tier within the eternal chaotic world. He was well versed in this area. However, only when one's soul was severely wounded would they fall into a deep slumber. Even though his life is not at risk, Jian Wushuang could possibly slumber for the rest of his life if he is not awakened quickly, Wang Yuan said. This was the same for many of the experts from the ancient past. Some of the experts' souls had been severely wounded back in the ancient past. Many of them had fallen into deep slumber and could not wake. No worries. I ordered my men to prepare the necessary materials. I have also called some of the Master's information from the Sanctuary Alliance to prepare the Tying Soul Resurrection Formation. Green Fire World is abundant in spiritual influence of heaven and earth. It is most suitable to place the Tying Soul Resurrection Formation here. As long as Jian Wushuang stays within the formation, his recovery should be speedy, Emperor Bai said. Chapter 21, 95 Deep Slumber Emperor Bai made it sound very simple. In reality, even though the Tying Soul Resurrection Formation and Spiritual Pool were both extremely helpful in the recovery of one's soul power, it was not easy to set up. Tying Soul Resurrection Formation originated from the ancient past. At least 10 masters of formation were needed to form this formation. Furthermore, large amounts of resources were needed to keep this formation running. These resources could come in the forms of special power stones. However, unless the power stone was like that of the Supreme Emperor Stone, a large amount of these special power stones would be needed to keep the formation running. The Sanctuary Alliance could not bear such a cost. Hence, Emperor Bai commanded around 200 Almighty to stay there at the Wushuang City. They would provide divine power to keep the Tying Soul Resurrection Formation running. As for the spiritual pool, it sounds ordinary. However, for the spiritual pool to be of use to Jian Wushuang, large amounts of treasures and resources were needed, though the amount was much less than that required to open the Heaven Repairing Palace. As of the current ability of the Sanctuary Alliance, time was needed to prepare these resources. The cost was huge, and the process was extremely complicated. No matter as Emperor Bai, nor any other almighties, were unwilling to put in the effort. The person who needed this was Jian Wushuang, the man who they owed the most to in this war. Jian Wushuang had risked it all, even his life, to kill the Blood Emperor. They would give it their all as long as there was even the slightest of hope for him to recover. Besides the Tying Soul Resurrection Formation and Spiritual Pool, we should prepare some elixir which helps in the recovery of soul power. However, such elixirs are rare and extremely difficult to make. We need to prepare. Emperor Bai said, I have elixirs which help in the recovery in soul power. Wang Yuan said, what type of elixir? Emperor Bai looked at Wang Yuan in surprise. Soul elixir. Wang Yuan said. Emperor Bai raised his eyebrows. Soul elixir was one of the more powerful elixirs that there was. This elixir was basically extinct in the eternal chaotic world. No one could create it. This ordinary-looking fat man could create the Ice Soul Elixir? How many of the Ice Soul Elixir do you have now? Emperor Bai asked. As of now, I only have 3. Wang Yuan whipped out a small bottle, which contained 3 crystal-clear elixir. After looking at the elixir and smelling its fragrance, Emperor Bai was sure that it was an extremely pure Ice Soul Elixir. 3 is too little. Emperor Bai frowned and said, Too little. It is all right. As long as I have sufficient materials, I can make more of these. Wang Yuan said, You can make Ice Soul Elixir? Emperor Bai was in disbelief. No alchemist master in the eternal chaotic world could create the Ice Soul Elixir, but this fat man here could. Emperor Bai might not know about this. Wang Yuan is Wushuang's brother. He has the unique constitution of being the celestial elixir. He received an opportunity in the ancient battlefield around the green fire world and mastered many techniques to create elixirs that existed in the ancient past. He indeed possesses incredible skills. As an alchemist, Jian Nen Tian said, Celestial elixir was a unique constitution that every alchemist master dreamed of having. Furthermore, he had received an opportunity from the ancient past. Emperor Bai looked at Wang Yuan in a different light. He knew that even though this little fat man was a mere chaotic real god, every major faction in the eternal chaotic world would have died to have him join their factions. This was the same for the Sanctuary Alliance. I will ask my men to prepare the necessary materials to create the Ice Soul Elixir. I will leave the making of the elixir to you. I hope you can make at least 1 every decade. Emperor Bai said, 1 every 10 years. Wang Yuan was stunned. The Ice Soul Elixir was a high-grade elixir from the ancient past. It was not easy even for him. If he needed to make 1 every 10 years, is there a problem? Emperor Bai asked. No problem. For my brother, I will make it happen, even if he needs 1 every year. At most, starting from today, I will not eat nor drink, just spend all my time making the elixir until Wushuang wakes up, Wang Yuan said as he shook his head. Hearing this, Emperor Bai nodded his head slowly. Soon, the entire Sanctuary Alliance started to work. They neglected everything else and managed to form the basic structure of the Tying Soul Resurrection Formation and Spiritual Pool. Wang Yuan started to make elixir. This time, he would be spending the most time on one job ever since he was born. Sanctuary Alliance, Green Fire World, and everyone of Jian Wushuang's family and friends gave it their all to ensure that the formation and the spiritual pool were running smoothly. Everyone was giving their all for Jian Wushuang. Meanwhile, Jian Wushuang lay peacefully in the middle of the spiritual pool in a deep slumber. While Jian Wushuang was in a deep slumber, somewhere in the eternal chaotic world, in an endless and dark void, whoosh, a beautiful figure was rushing somewhere. She had a perfect figure. She wore a veil and looked like she was a fairy. She made her way forward. Suddenly, she stopped in her tracks. What? Lung Rushue raised her head and looked forward to her beautiful iris. There stood a man in a white cloak. The cloak looked like it was made of snow. He was handsome and cold yet arrogant. He stood there in the air, radiating no aura. It was like he was made of air. Emperor 13. Lung Rushue saw the man as she clenched her jaws. During the battle in the Blood Emperor Sanctuary grounds, she had not attacked at all. When she had realized that Blood Emperor was about to die, she had turned and escaped immediately. She was far away from the experts from the eternal chaotic world. She had left promptly, and no one could catch up to her. However, not long after she had left the 3 emperors' world, Emperor 13 had appeared in front of her. Chapter 2196. You are too controlling. After a deep breath, Lung Rushue gave a modest look. Greetings, Emperor 13. I am Lung Rushue. Emperor 13 looked at Lung Rushue coldly, without saying a word. Lung Rushue was nervous. She was fearful of Emperor 13. He had managed to shake the restrictions of heaven and earth and reach the half-step divine demon realm with his own power. Back in the ancient past, he had been even more powerful. He could solo the master of Holy Land and could go even against the being that supported Lung Rushue. If Emperor 13 wanted to kill her, there was nothing she could do. From the myths, Emperor 13 would never kill a weakling. To him, I am just someone insignificant who was born at this age. He would not kill me. Furthermore, he was on Jian Wushuang's side and helped Jian Wushuang during his time of need. Within my body, I suppressed that woman's consciousness. If he really tried anything funny, I could simply commit suicide with her. If that happened, he would not be able to face Jian Wushuang. Lung Rushue thought to herself as she calmed down. She believed that Emperor 13 would not kill her. Suddenly, Emperor 13, who stood there peacefully, raised his right hand and pointed at her. This action looked very casual. However, heaven and earth shook as the space was ripped apart. An enormous fault in heaven and earth appeared. This fault continued to expand at terrifying speed. 1,000 feet, 10,000 feet, 100,000 feet, 1,000,000 feet. This crack sped towards her. Oh no! Lung Rushue turned pale. Right when she thought Emperor 13 would not have done anything funny to try and kill her, he attacked. Instantly, Lung Rushue was radiating an unique aura. This aura was at the power level of a stage 3 great emperor. Her jet black hair turned white, and her irises turned gray. When Lung Rushue was about to deflect the sword from Emperor 13, the humongous crack disappeared. The terrifying sword essence dissipated. The entire space was peaceful, except for the destructive aura that she was radiating. Emperor 13 stood there, surprised. Lung Rushue looked at Emperor 13, confused. Emperor 13 was not trying to kill her. That sword was to test Lung Rushue. As for why? White hair, gray irises. Destiny constitution. No wonder. The only reason you can reach such a stage within such a short time is because of that person helping you. Lung Rushue frowned. She knew who Emperor 13 was referring to. Her unique constitution was only linked to that being. Seeing that Lung Rushue did not say anything in defense, Emperor 13 said once again, "Tell this to the person behind you. She is too controlling of the things she should not be. If she does not stop in time, I will stop her one way or another." Emperor 13 turned around and left. Lung Rushue stared at Emperor 13's back coldly. A few days later, Lung Rushue reached a unique mystery land. Sanctuary Alliance had no idea that the Holocaust sect had complete control over this mystery land. At the depth of the mystery land, there was a majestic altar. Lung Rushue squeezed a blood essence from her index finger as it dripped onto the secret restrictions on the altar. The entire altar started to run. Within moments, a blurry figure appeared on this altar. This blurry figure was over 2 meters tall, and her facial expressions could not be seen clearly. From the looks of it, the figure belonged to a beautiful female. "Master," Lung Rushue said, as she saluted the figure. Blood Emperor failed. A soft and graceful voice was heard. "Yes," Lung Rushue nodded her head lightly. "Ha, this is within my predictions." That dumbass. Does he really think a formation can shake the restrictions of heaven and earth here? What a joke. Has he ever thought about who made the restrictions of heaven and earth? Even the other 2 masters of Holy Land cannot do so with all their might. Who is he to try? The blurry figure mocked. The blurry figure looked down on Blood Emperor. It was not just because of the Blood Emperor's weak fighting power. More importantly, it was because he was arrogant. He did not know the true power of the restrictions. Master, during the battle, Emperor 13 was there. Lung Rushue continued. Emperor 13? The blurry figure said with a deeper voice, as she treated this more seriously. She did not care about a mere blood emperor. However, it was a different case when it came to Emperor 13. Has Emperor 13 awakened? Looks like those experts who were in slumber in that heaven and earth are all about to wake up, the blurry figure sighed. Master, Emperor 13 came over and found me alone. He knows about your existence. He asked me to pass you a message. Lung Rushue said. Speak, the blurry figure said. He wants me to tell you that you are too controlling of some things that you shouldn't be. If you do not stop, he will, one way or another, Lung Rushue said. How dare he? The blurry figure was instantly enraged. Even the old owner of the 7-star black sect would not dare to say that to me. Emperor 13, you got courage. Who is he to say that? Lung Rushue stood there, quietly listening. Even though the blurry figure was enraged, there was nothing she could do. The blurry figure looked down at her right arm. If her original body had been there and she lifted up her sleeve, a clear sword scar would have been seen. Even though the scar was not large, it represented the greatest disgrace in her life. That was exactly the reason why she had kept the sword scar on her arm and refused to let it heal. Emperor 13 was the one who had left the sword scar there. Emperor 13, you should feel lucky that the restrictions of heaven and earth are far too powerful there. I cannot go there personally. If not, I would personally tear you to bits. The blurry figure yelled before she looked over at Lung Rushue. Disciple, tell this to those who are about to awaken. 30,000 years later, heaven's horizon, that is their only chance. Chapter 21, 97 Old Monsters in Deep Slumber. 30,000 years later, heaven's horizon, that is their only chance. Once the blurry figure said these words, the figure disappeared from the altar. Lung Rushue stood there, excited. After hearing what the blurry figure said, she thought to herself, 30,000 years. Is the time finally coming? Ha! These old monsters have waited for this for all eternity. She smiled creepily before she left. Within the eternal chaotic world, there were many dangerous places. The most dangerous was undoubtedly the 8 layers. Even though the 8 layers were extremely dangerous, there were many opportunities within. The 8 layers was one of the best places for experts to venture into. After the battlefield from the ancient past was revealed, many of the experts from the eternal chaotic world went to venture into the ancient mystery land, or the battlefield around Green Fire World. The 8 layers were neglected. Only some of the real gods who could not venture into the ancient battlefield would choose to venture into the 8 layers. Within the 8 layers, the 6th layer. The 6th layer was one of the most infamous places. Many of the experts higher than the realm of Sir God dared not venture in. The Buddhist Demon Sea was one of the most notorious places. Back when Jian Wushuang had been set up by the Acheron Palace, he had entered Buddhist Demon Sea in order to save Lei Chao. He was lucky as he had received help from experts and managed to survive. After what happened, Jian Wushuang knew that there were 2 experts from the ancient past residing there in slumber. One of the 2 experts was 1-star man. The other man had an ancient flood dragon and had tried to kill Jian Wushuang. These 2 experts resided in the Buddhist Demon Sea. On this day, a beautiful figure stepped foot into the Buddhist Demon Sea. This beautiful figure was Lung Rushue. Buddhist Demon Sea. Is that man still in slumber here? Lung Rushue looked at the endless sea and thought to herself. Those experts who had survived from the ancient battlefield usually slumbered in the ancient battlefields. For example, the ancient Mystery Land. Many experts from the ancient past chose those places for their slumbers. There were exceptions, of course. The battle back then had been so fierce that the entire ancient battlefield had been spread throughout this world. The Buddhist demon, Si, was one of them. Lung Rushue did not hesitate and continued to head deep into the Buddhist demon Si. The Buddhist demon Si was very dangerous. However, Lung Rushue was a stage 3 great emperor. Soon, she reached the depth of the sea. Here, it was covered in black mist. The black mist contained unimaginable corrosive power. At the deepest part of the Buddhist demon Si, even a great emperor would find it difficult to stop the corrosive power. Lung Rushue floated there, motionless. Right then, in the sea below, a large wave erupted as a black figure rose and appeared behind Lung Rushue. This black figure was an ancient flood dragon. His whole body was covered in black scales which radiated death. Its mouth opened as it bit Lung Rushue with its 2 sharp teeth. Lung Rushue stood there. She noticed that the ancient flood dragon was attacking her, but she did not bother dodging or defending herself from the attack. Right when Lung Rushue was about to be bitten by the ancient flood dragon, she yelled, "Old monster dragon, do you wish to be trapped here in the Buddhist demon Si forever?" Her voice filled the entire Buddhist demon Si. The ancient flood dragon stopped in its tracks. The teeth of the dragon were about to touch Lung Rushue. However, it stopped and dared not move another inch forward. Lung Rushue turned around slowly as she looked at the ancient flood dragon coldly. There was no fear in her eyes. The ancient flood dragon was very fierce and savage. However, under the stare of Lung Rushue, it backed off and closed its mouth. On the back of the ancient flood dragon, a blurry figure formed. He had black armor and an extremely violent aura. His eyes were like those of a venomous snake as he looked at Lung Rushue. "Little brat, who are you?" The blurry figure, who was Old Monster Dragon, said with a deep voice. Lung Rushue did not reply. Her hair turned white, and her irises turned gray instantly. A terrifying aura of destruction swept out in all directions. White-haired and gray irises. "You are that person's..." Old Monster Dragon was shocked. His attitude instantly turned for the battle. "I am sorry that I scared you, little girl," he said as he stomped on the ancient flood dragon, as though he was punishing it. Lung Rushue stood there coldly, not saying a thing. "Little girl, you came today under that person's orders?" Old Monster Dragon asked nervously. "Humph, my master wants me to tell you this. 30,000 years later, heaven's horizon. That is one and only chance. If you miss it," Lung Rushue grunted. She turned around and left, completely ignoring Old Monster Dragon. On the vast ocean, the ancient flood dragons float there. Old Monster Dragon stood on his dragon, stunned. He was completely stunned. Soon, he regained his composure. "Ha ha ha. Finally. How long has it been? I can finally leave this terrible place. 30,000 years, the last 30,000 years." His crazy laughter was like letting go of his helplessness over these years. It contained some sadness as his laughter reverberated throughout the vast ocean. However, in the Buddhist demon Si, there was more than one person who was in a slumber. One Star Man was there too. When Lung Rushue appeared there, One Star Man realized her presence. When Old Monster Dragon laughed, One Star Man had a complicated look. 30,000 years? Those old men in a slumber must be excited. Looks like it is time for me to get out of this place and see some sunlight. Chapter 21, 98 Days of Slumber. After the war was over, peace quickly returned to the eternal chaotic world. The various forces settled down as well. They continued their normal daily activities. The experts from the Special Tribes Alliance returned to the Special Tribes territory and back into their own tribes. King Luo Yu was the only one who stayed back and awaited Jian Wushuang's awakening. As for the Black Dragon Emperor, she was the leader of her clan. Even though she had feelings for Jian Wushang, she could not stay and had to return to settle important matters within her own clan. She could only come and visit him occasionally. It was a pity that Jian Wushuang remained asleep and did not awaken. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, 7,000 years passed. The eternal chaotic world returned to normal. The cultivators here continued their failed lives. They continued to venture out for opportunities, sparring with others as the competition continued. Within Wushuang City in the Green Fire World, the fat Wang Yuan sat in the middle of an open patch of ground and drank his wine happily. Whoosh! A beautiful girl in black clothes suddenly appeared beside Wang Yuan. Congratulations on your breakthrough, Su Ro. You are the sixth Almighty the Green Fire World has had. What is there to congratulate about being the sixth Almighty? Su Ro said, Green Fire World was a sanctuary filled with geniuses. The cultivating conditions here were far superior. Hence the rate of growth of numbers of experts was incredibly fast as well. Before the battle against the Three Emperors world, the Green Fire World had only had one Almighty, Jian Nantian. The other experts were only in the realm of Sir God. After merely 7,000 years after the Great War, 5 Almighties had been born, and Su Ro was one of them. 2 of the few who broke through earlier than me have cultivated for less than 20,000 years. How can I compare myself to them? Su Ro smiled. They are different from us. They were only born after the cultivating conditions of the Green Fire World changed for the better. They have had a much bigger advantage since birth. How can you compare yourself to them? Wang Yuan added, What about Jian Wushuang? He came from the same era as us. Su Ro continued, Uffed. Are you all right, Su Ro? Did you just try to compare yourself to him? Wang Yuan choked on his alcohol when he heard what Su Ro said. That is true, Su Ro said as she shrugged her shoulders. Jian Wushuang indeed came from the same era as them, and was like a brother to them. His talent and potential was on another level. How can you be so free to be drinking here? Shouldn't you be making the ice soul elixir? Or has Jian Wushuang awakened from his slumber? Su Ro asked, Jian Wushuang. He is still in deep slumber. I have no idea when he can awaken from his slumber. There is no hurry in making the ice soul elixir, as I have already made so much that there is some in reserve. It should suffice for a period of time. Wang Yuan continued. After Jian Wushuang fell into a deep slumber, Wang Yuan started to make ice soul elixir at a crazy rate. He did not rest and gave it his all in making them. Wang Yuan was talented in the area of alchemy. During the process of making the ice soul elixir, his alchemy skills were constantly improving. It became increasingly easy for him to make the ice soul elixir, as he was constantly making them at a crazy rate. Now, he could make several ice soul elixir every year. Given the incredible amount of time he had taken to make the elixir, there were sufficient reserves for Jian Wushuang for a period of time. When the elixir was about to be used up, he would then continue to make the elixir. Wang Yuan and Su Ro chatted casually. Right then, Jian Nantian transmitted a message to them. Wait, Emperor Bai is here? Come, let's head to the spiritual pool. Wang Quan raised his eyebrows and said, There were numerous guards constantly protecting the spiritual pool. They were led by Jian Wushuang's servant, Jian Yi. This was to ensure that no one would get in the way of Jian Wushuang's recovery. Emperor Bai, Jian Nantian, Wang Yuan, Su Rou, and Hall Master Yuan stood in front of the spiritual pool. Emperor Bai was looking at Jian Wushuang, who lay motionless and peaceful in the spiritual pool. A small amount of spiritual power swept towards Jian Wushuang, as it was used to scan his consciousness. See, this spiritual power was not destructive nor invasive. It simply scanned Jian Wushuang's consciousness, see, before dissipating. Emperor Bai, how is he? Jian Nantian asked. If I'm not wrong, his soul has completely recovered. Emperor Bai said, recovered? Jian Nantian was elated. Awesome! Wang Yuan and Su Rou were all excited. Since his soul has completely recovered, why is he still asleep? Su Rou asked. His soul will only fall into a deep slumber once it has been injured like never before. This state is extremely dangerous, as any small accidents could cause him to remain in slumber for all eternity. Even though his soul has completely recovered, we never know when he will regain consciousness. It might take a year or two. However, it might even take 100,000 years or even 1,000,000. Is that the case? Jian Nantian, Wang Yuan, and the rest turned pale. They had underestimated how dangerous it was for one's soul to fall into deep slumber. The experts who were in deep slumber from the ancient past would have awakened long ago if all it took for an expert in slumber to awaken was for their soul to recover completely. Let us wait a little more. Continue to feed him the ice soul elixir, and let him remain within the spiritual pool. Even though we do not know for sure when he will awaken, his soul power will definitely become much more powerful once he awakens. These things will only benefit him, Emperor Bai said before he left. Jian Nantian and the rest were disappointed. All they could do now was wait. As time passed, the quality and quantity of the resources within the green fire world increased and became better. The cultivating atmosphere was also optimal, and hence numerous experts were born. There were originally 6 Almighties. Soon after, the 7th and 8th Almighty came about. In the 10,000th year Jian Wushuang was in slumber, there were a total of 12 Almighties within the green fire world. In the next 1,000 years, there was another leap in numbers. Within this 1,000 years, there were a total of 5 new Almighties. Among the 5 were 2 who had unique constitutions. They were very talented, and it seemed likely that they could reach the Emperor God realm or even the Great Emperor realm. During the same 1,000 years, one man managed to break through to the realm of Emperor God. This man was Jian Nantian. He was the second man to reach the Emperor God realm, the first being Jian Wushuang. Everyone thought that it would take longer for him to break through into this realm. No one expected him to break through again within 20,000 years. Chapter 2199 Awaken the Birth of the First Emperor God had brought about a leap in overall power of the green fire world. Jian Nantian's breakthrough had also reaffirmed that the green fire world had great potential, as the experts from the various factions within the eternal chaotic world took great note of this place. At the rate of growth it was having, the green fire world would become an incredible place. The experts were extremely envious and had even greater desire to enter this place. However, due to the agreement that the factions and Jian Wushuang had, no one dared to enter the cities. After all, the green fire world was the birthplace of the Sword Emperor, and the Sword Emperor was a legend. He was one of the most powerful men within the eternal chaotic world. During the great battle 10 of thousands years ago, he had single-handedly turned the tides of the battle and won it for the eternal chaotic world. Even the great emperors within the Sanctuary Alliance feared and respected him and followed the agreement to never step foot into the green fire world. It was impossible for the ordinary experts within the eternal chaotic world to try anything funny. Green fire world continued to grow progressively. Time continued to pass. Within the Wushuang city, Jian Wushuang lay in the spiritual pool motionlessly. Right then, Jian Wushuang's finger and eyelids trembled slightly before he finally opened his eyes. Awakened, Jian Wushuang finally awakened from his deep slumber. Where am I? Jian Wushuang looked around, confused. He saw that he was submerged within a pool of water with unique properties. He had no idea how this spiritual pool had come about. His last memory was of the battlefield years ago. I remember that I cast soul ignition and tried to use the 7th seal of the 9-province seal in an attempt to kill the Blood Emperor. It was a pity that it failed. Then Master appeared. Jian Wushuang recalled seeing Xian Yi. Xian Yi appeared suddenly during that battle. He merely recalled that Xian Yi had appeared. He had no idea what had happened after, as his consciousness had started to fade from the aftereffects from soul ignition. He also had no idea what had happened during the time he had been asleep. He only knew he had slept. He had slept peacefully and soundly. He had no worries and no distractions. He simply went into a deep slumber. It was the best sleep he had ever had. I wondered what happened after I went into the deep slumber. The Blood Emperor should have been killed back then, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself as he surveyed the area. He knew that he had slept for a considerable amount of time. Since he was alive, the eternal chaotic world should have won that war and Blood Emperor should be dead by now. If the Blood Emperor was still around, the eternal chaotic world would have been destroyed, and he would be dead. Huh. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows in surprise. What happened? My soul power, the power it contains. Jian Wushuang could clearly sense that his soul was completely different. It was so much more powerful and had much more tenacity. His soul power had previously barely reached the level of a stage 2 great emperor. It was rare to find someone with soul power at that level in the eternal chaotic world. However, it was nothing compared to people like Blood Emperor and other experts at that level. However, Jian Wushuang's current soul power was at least 10 times more powerful. Yes, 10 times. It had barely reached the level of a stage 2 great emperor previously. Now, his soul power was at the level of a peak stage 3 great emperor. How can this be? My soul was almost burned up. How can it be that my soul recovered and got so much stronger? Jian Wushuang was in disbelief. However, he would not be surprised if he knew how magical the formation and spiritual pool surrounding him was, and how many ice soul elixir he had taken. Both the Tying Soul Resurrection Formation and the spiritual pool were made at a huge cost. This cost was far greater than Jian Wushuang could have imagined. With both of these working together to help Jian Wushuang repair his soul, it would have been weird if he did not recover and come back stronger. Most important was the Ice Soul Elixir. This elixir was used by experts back in the ancient past to make their soul stronger. Even back in the ancient past, the Ice Soul Elixir was rare. In this era, this elixir was almost extinct. It had a great effect in making one's soul much more powerful than before. One Ice Soul Elixir was already very helpful for any great emperor. On a normal day, the Almighty within the eternal chaotic world had to pay a huge price just to get an elixir similar to that of the Ice Soul Elixir. However, Jian Wushuang had a good brother, Wang Yuan, who had helped him make Ice Soul Elixir as easily as making beans. Jian Wushuang had been fed one every now and then. How many Ice Soul Elixir had he taken over all these years of slumber? The number would be terrifying. It would have been weird if his soul power had not grown so much. Back then during the battle, my soul power was only at the level of a stage 2 great emperor. However, I could threaten a stage 3 great emperor like Demon King Chen. You when I cast Soul Attack with the help of the Soul Swallowing Pearl and the 3 Divine Lights secret skill. Now that my soul power is so much stronger, how strong will my soul attack be? I think no one in the realm of the Great Emperor can stop it. Even Emperor Bai. Jian Wushuang looked confused. Emperor Bai was a very powerful man that could reach the battle power of a chaotic divine demon. However, his soul might not be that powerful. I want to try if I have the chance. Jian Wushuang smiled. He stood up from the spiritual pool and walked out of the formation. Wushuang City was located on a vast empty land. Wang Yuan sat lazily on a bench and leaned on the tree behind him. In front of Wang Yuan, Hall Master Yuan was stood casually. Beside him was another blurry figure. That blurry figure was a consciousness incarnation, and the owner was a powerful emperor god. This emperor god stood in front of Wang Yuan modestly. Chapter 2200 Master Wang. Master Wang, I have prepared all the materials needed to make the fiery purple dragon howl elixir, including the blood essence. You see, the elder man with brown hair said, fiery purple dragon howl elixir is a high-level elixir. Even though I can make it, it will not be easy, Wang Yuan said lazily. The elder with brown hair was an emperor god and understood what Wang Yuan meant and smiled. Don't worry, Master Wang. I have prepared millions of doctrine gems and other special materials as thanks for your service. Hall Master Yuan. Hall Master Yuan waved his hand as a Qiankuan ring appeared. This ring had been prepared by the elder man in brown hair, and he passed it to Hall Master Yuan and asked him to bring it into Wushuang City. This place was part of the Green Fire world, and the elder man could not enter personally. He could only send a consciousness embodiment in. A consciousness embodiment could not bring a Qiankuan ring in. Doctrine gems were packed densely within this ring and stacked as high as a mountain. There were also many other treasures. These were high-level treasures which were required to make many high-level elixirs. Wang Yuan scanned the Qiankuan ring casually before he continued. It is not easy to make the fiery purple dragon howl elixir. I will try my best to make one for you, since you are so sincere. However, I cannot be sure I can make it in one try. If I fail, the set of materials will go to waste. Hence, you will need to prepare a few more sets of raw materials. Master Wang, you are right. I have thought of this. Hence, I prepared 3 sets of raw materials. The elder man replied, 3 sets? That is too little. I need at least 5 sets of materials, and I can guarantee you one fiery purple dragon howl elixir. Wang Yuan said, 5. The elder man's face twitched. The fiery purple dragon howl elixir was of a very high level, on par with the ice soul elixir. The materials of these elixirs were not cheap. He did not have the ability to throw in tremendous resources to search for the raw materials, unlike Sanctuary Alliance, in order to help Jian Wushuang to awaken from his slumber. Even so, there were insufficient raw materials. Wang Yuan could make around 10 of such elixirs with 1 set of raw materials thanks to his ever-improving and professional alchemy skills. This elder man was a mere emperor god. It took him tremendous effort to search for these 3 sets of raw materials. 2 more sets. The elder man looked at Wang Yuan with his fists clenched. He knew clearly that the fiery purple dragon howl elixir was of a similar difficulty level to the ice soul elixir. With Wang Yuan's alchemist skills, he could definitely make at least 1 elixir with 3 sets of materials. Him wanting 3 sets meant that he wanted to reap more benefits. Even so, there was nothing he could do. He desperately needed the fiery purple dragon howl elixir. Even though within the eternal chaotic world, there were ways passed down from the ancient past to make this elixir, few alchemists could make it. He tried to ask another alchemist to make this elixir for him. The other alchemist too asked for great amounts of resources and treasures. Furthermore, the other alchemist asked for 10 sets of raw materials to guarantee the return of one elixir. Wang Yuan's request seemed decent given that other alchemists had asked for even more benefits to make the same elixir. The elder man looked at Hall Master Yuan pleadingly. Hall Master Yuan smiled subtly before he said, Mr. Wang Yuan, Emperor God Jin, Luo took tens of thousands of years to gather 3 sets of raw materials. It would be difficult for him to find another 2 more sets. Hence, understood, give me 4 sets of raw materials. I should be able to make 1 fiery purple dragon howl elixir if I give it my all. Hearing this, Hall Master Yuan nodded his head and said no more. The elder man knitted his eyebrows. It would not be easy for him to gather even 1 more set of raw materials. If you cannot prepare 4 sets of raw materials, I am sorry to say that I cannot help you, Wang Yuan said. No, I just need some time. I will go prepare now, the elder man said. Once you are done with the preparations, pass the materials to Hall Master Yuan. I will inform you once I am free and successfully make your elixir. Nowadays, I am busy making the ice soul elixir for my brother. The faster you prepare, the faster I can plan my schedule, Wang Yuan said. Yes, the elder man nodded his head in a hurry, afraid that Wang Yuan would regret his decision. Oh, yes. Leave the Qian Kuan ring behind, Wang Yuan said. The brown-hair elder man left the ring behind and left distressed. After the elder man left, Mr. Wang Yuan, you have just made an excellent deal. With your alchemist skills, 1 set of raw materials is more than enough to make 1 fiery purple dragon howl elixir. Now you will get 4 sets with an additional 1 million doctrine gems and numerous treasures. I am afraid no one within the eternal chaotic world can match your speed in obtaining resources and treasures. Hall Master Yuan smiled. Ha. Back in the ancient worlds with my brothers, my family ran a trading corporation. I know how to maximize the benefits for myself in a trade. Wang Yuan laughed. He was not afraid that the elder man would not meet his conditions. In the eternal chaotic world, no one would dare to call themselves the best alchemist if they declared themselves second. It was because he received a big opportunity in the ancient battlefield. He had managed to get the legacy from the ancient past, and he knew how to make many elixirs from the ancient past. After this news spread, his life had been very smooth sailing. There would be almighties, even great emperors who would find him and ask him to make some elixirs for them, though it came with a great price. Wang Yuan and Hall Master Yuan chatted casually, unaware that there was a man behind them listening to whatever they said. Wang Yuan, you are leading quite a good life. A gentle voice appeared as Jian Wushuang walked out, smiling. Of course, my life is, Wang Yuan replied instinctively before he stopped. His eyes widened in surprise. This voice sounded very familiar. Chapter 22:01 Jian Wushuang's Awakening. Brother. Wang Yuan turned around and stared at Jian Wushuang. Palace Master. Hall Master Yuan was pleasantly surprised. It is me. Took both of you some time to recognize me. Jian Wushuang smiled. Oh, God, yes. You finally awakened. Wang Yuan charged at Jian Wushuang and gave him a bear hug. From what I have heard, it looks like I have been in slumber for a long time. Furthermore, your alchemist skills have improved greatly. Am I right? Jian Wushuang smiled. Of course. I am now the best alchemist in the eternal chaotic world, Wang Yuan said triumphantly. The best in the eternal chaotic world. Are you really that good? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Palace Master, Mr. Wang Yuan indeed possesses incredible alchemist skills. The reason why your soul could recover so quickly was because he made numerous ice soul elixir for you, Hall Master Yuan said. Oh, Jian Wushuang looked at Wang Yuan. Let's not talk about this. It is wonderful that you finally awakened from your slumber. It'll gather everyone else. Wang Yuan started transmitting messages. Jian Wushuang did not stop Wang Yuan. Soon, the message got through to Jian Nantian, Ji Wuming, Su Rou, Lin Lan, He Xiu, Shui Lingtian, and many other people who were close to Jian Wushuang. Wushuang, Jian Nantian, and his wife looked at their son, elated. Dad, Mum, I am not a good child. I made both of you worry. Jian Wushuang apologized. It is okay. You have awakened. Jian Nantian did not blame him and heaved a sigh of relief. He took the most pride in his son. Jian Wushuang was not only the backbone of the green fire world, but also of the eternal chaotic world. Jian Wushuang then greeted Su Rou and the remaining people. He was surprised that many of his close friends had become much stronger. Wang Yuan had already been an extremely skilled alchemist before the great battle, though he was still far from being the best alchemist. Even though not everyone agreed that Wang Yuan was the best alchemist, he was confident that he was. His alchemist skills had improved greatly, seeing the attitude of the brown-haired elder man when he was requesting for Wang Yuan's service. His father, Jian Nantian, had previously been in the realm of Sir God. Now, he was in the realm of Emperor God. Su Rou and Shui Lingtian had both reached the realm of Sir God. Even though Green Fire World had an extremely conducive cultivating environment, these people would not have improved so greatly without time. How long have I been in slumber? Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Soon, everyone within the palace were being served with good food and wine. They sat down and started chatting. Jian Wushuang finally knew how long he had been in a slumber. 24,000 years. Yes, after the great battle, he had fallen into a deep slumber. It had been 24,000 years since that great battle. To Jian Wushuang, this was a great amount of time. He had cultivated for less than 10,000 years since birth, unlike many almighty experts within the eternal chaotic who were at hundreds of thousands or even millions of years old. Emperor Bai was an example of such an expert. He had been born in the first era, and his age was beyond Jian Wushuang's wildest imagination. At the same time, Jian Wushuang got to know what everyone had done for him when he was in deep slumber. He knew the cost of building the Taiying Soul Resurrection Formation and the spiritual pool. On top of this, the cost of making ice soul elixirs. Big boss Wang Yuan. Jian Wushuang looked at Wang Yuan gratefully and with excitement. Wang Yuan had had to make one ice soul elixir every 10 years for him for 24,000 years. Ice soul elixir was an extremely high-grade elixir. If it had been any other alchemist in the eternal chaotic world, they might only have been able to make one, even if they had sufficient resources, after hundreds of years. However, Wang Yuan had made 2,400 elixirs within this short amount of time. This was an enormous amount. Thank you. Jian Wushuang finally said these two words. Ha, you do not need to be so formal with me. Brother, Wang Yuan answered casually. Their relationship went beyond life and death. They were brothers who went through thick and thin together. To Wang Yuan, it was nothing to spend some time on making some elixirs for Jian Wushuang. After a deep breath, Jian Wushuang started asking about what had changed in the Green Fire world. 24,000 years was a very long time. A lot had changed in the Green Fire world. There were now 26 almighties, including Jian Nantian, who was an emperor god. There were numerous real gods and other geniuses. The Green Fire world really did grow. This is just the beginning. Given time, the number of experts within the Green Fire world will only increase, and it will be confirmed as one of the best places within the eternal chaotic world. Jian Wushuang felt that his hard work was worth it given how much the green fire world had grown and prospered. Wushuang, you should inform Emperor Bai and the rest of the great emperors that you have awakened. During the time that you were in slumber, they put in great effort to help you build the Tai Ying Resurrection Formation and the spiritual pool. Furthermore, it cost a fortune to keep these running, Jian Nantian said. Yes, I have already transmitted a message. Jian Wushuang smiled. He transmitted the message when he awakened. Emperor Bai, and the rest would be on their way. Not just Emperor Bai, you should tell the experts from the special tribes. Furthermore, what is with the Black Dragon Emperor? Wang Yuan asked out of nowhere. Black Dragon Emperor? What's wrong? Jian Wushuang was curious. Don't act dumb. It is obvious that she is interested in you. When you were in your slumber, she would visit you once every now and then. She is the leader of her clan and has a lot of urgent matters to attend to, yet she visited you more than Emperor Bai. And the other experts? Wang Yuan asked playfully. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was stunned but helpless. He knew that Black Dragon Emperor was interested in him. However, he was already married. In this life, he would only love his wife and his wife alone. He would not accept anyone else. Looks like I have to speak to Black Dragon Emperor about this, Jian Wushuang muttered. Chapter 22:02 Time for a Change. Emperor Bai, Abysmal Saint Master, Ancestor Tianchun, and many other experts from the Sanctuary Alliance reached after a while. King Chun Xian, King Luo Yu, and the Black Dragon Emperor from the Special Tribes Alliance came along too. When everyone saw that Jian Wushuang had awakened, they were all surprised and elated. This was especially the case for the experts from the Special Tribes Alliance. Black Dragon Emperor was the happiest person of them all. When he saw that large number of visitors, Jian Wushuang held a banquet. At the banquet, some of the most powerful experts in the eternal chaotic world gathered to celebrate and have fun. Some of them toasted Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang toasted back in response. At the banquet, Jian Wushuang, you slept for 24,000 years. During this time, the eternal chaotic world changed. Emperor Bai smiled. Oh, Jian Wushuang looked over at Emperor Bai. The star of this banquet was Jian Wushuang, while Emperor Bai was second to only him. He sat together beside Emperor Bai while the remaining people sat in front of them. During the previous battle, we suffered great casualties, many of which were pillars of support of their respective clans. The situation in the eternal chaotic world changed, though the changes are not of importance to you. Aside from the Sanctuary Alliance, the Green Fire world is the strongest power in the eternal chaotic world, and the second is the lineage of stars. Emperor Bai smiled. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Green Fire world was the strongest power. Lineage of stars was second. He was the leader for both clans. Jian Wushuang rubbed his nose as he looked at Emperor Bai. He understood what Emperor Bai had implied. The more elite you are, the more likely it is that you will become a target in the eyes of others. It was good that the Green Fire world and the lineage of stars expanded and grew over time. However, there would be certain hidden risks. Now that the eternal chaotic world was not in the face of any threat, there would be internal fighting for resources. Within the Sanctuary Alliance, the great emperors would fight for their own power and standing. If Green Fire world and lineage of stars continuously remained so powerful, the other forces would fear them. This was especially the case for Green Fire world, as its potential was limitless. Jian Wushuang thought to himself for a moment before he came to a decision. Hi, everyone. Jian Wushuang stood up as his majestic voice was heard at every corner of the banquet. Everyone at the banquet turned and looked at him. Jian Wushuang continued. During the time I was in a deep sleep, there were many changes to the eternal chaotic world. Hence, the agreement between the green fire world and the rest of the eternal chaotic world should be amended as well. When the experts heard what Jian Wushuang had said, their faces turned pale. The agreement between green fire world and the rest of the eternal chaotic world. It was that no Almighty shall step foot onto the green fire world without permission. Clans could only send certain youngsters into the allocated area within the green fire world to cultivate. Once they reached the realm of real God, they have to leave. Many of the clans and tribes found it difficult to accept this agreement. Back then, Jian Wushuang had not been so powerful. However, he had in hand the strongest trump card that controlled the existence of Green Fire World and forced the other clans to sign the agreement. Now, with Jian Wushuang's power, he could force all of the youngsters who were cultivating in the Green Fire World to leave, and there was nothing they would be able to do. Jian Wushuang looked at everyone and smiled. Everyone calm down. I will not ask your youngsters to leave the Green Fire World. On the contrary, I will allow all experts, including Sir Gods, Emperor Gods, and Great Emperors, to freely enter the Green Fire World. You can even stay there for as long as you like. What? Everyone was stunned. Then they broke out in excitement. They were allowed into the Green Fire World. That was indisputably the best place for any cultivators to cultivate. The cultivation environment was many times better than the 10 sanctuaries. It was even better than Thunderbolt Island. Many of them had great desire to go there and cultivate. However, due to the agreement, they could only look at this sanctuary but not do anything. Now, Jian Wushuang had given them permission. Now that he had absolute power, he would not demand more, but even give concessions. Many of the experts were elated as they looked at Jian Wushuang gratefully. Jian Wushuang saw the reactions of these experts and smiled. If he wanted to, he could demand more from the eternal chaotic world by driving all other experts away. However, this would create resentment from the rest of the clans and cause them to have greater desire for the Green Fire World. They would not dare to do anything outrageous simply because he was around. However, if he were to leave one day, he would not be able to protect the Green Fire World anymore. The Green Fire World might be under assault. This could result in them losing their land, or worse, getting killed. Now that he had taken the initiative and taken a step back to give the rest of the eternal chaotic world something they always wanted, it would allow the rest of the experts to feel grateful and not be so extreme in their actions if they really invaded the Green Fire World. Second, this would allow Green Fire World to integrate with the eternal chaotic world and become the ultimate dream place for all cultivators. The best case would be that the people of Green Fire World and the rest of the eternal chaotic world would mix to produce offspring within the Green Fire World. If this was the case, people would treat the Green Fire World as though it was their own hometown. If the Green Fire World faced any danger or threats, there would be experts to step out voluntarily to face them. However, even though I allow the top tier's experts into the Green Fire World, I hope all of you will abide by the law of the Green Fire World. If there is anyone who does evil or even goes on a massacre, then I am sorry. I will take care of you personally. Jian Wushuang's voice suddenly turned cold, and he said, Chapter 22, Oh, 3 the Emperor by in the Pa. Don't worry, Sword Emperor. We will definitely abide by the laws of the Green Fire World. If anyone dares to be funny, I will take care of them myself. Abysmal Saint Master stood up and said, Yes, yes. Don't worry, Sword Emperor. Whoever dares to play a fool within the eternal chaotic world will be our common enemy. The remaining experts and great emperors said. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang nodded his head in approval. Not bad. Emperor Bai looked over at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang shrugged his shoulders. He wanted to do this for a very long time. Green Fire World was originally part of the eternal chaotic world, but it had been completely isolated for a period of time. Jian Wushuang really hoped that Green Fire World could completely integrate with the eternal chaotic world. However, it was a pity that the Green Fire World had had too much potential, and he had not been powerful enough back then. If he had allowed the experts from the other clans to enter the Green Fire World back then, he would have completely lost control of the Green Fire World. Now, it was different. He was powerful enough to control the Green Fire World, and no one from the eternal chaotic world would try to do anything funny there. Even the great emperors within the Sanctuary Alliance had no choice but to listen to him, all except Emperor Bai. This was when he could give concessions to the rest. The banquet lasted 3 days and nights. The experts left after their hearts were full. Within Wushuang City, in a large garden, Jian Wushuang and Emperor Bai sat together at a table. "Thank you, Emperor Bai, for all the things you did when I was in slumber," Jian Wushuang said gratefully. "It is a small thing. You fell into slumber because you fought Blood Emperor for us. Since you gave your all for the eternal chaotic world, we too gave our all to take care of you. Furthermore, you don't have to talk to me so respectfully. We are about the same power level right now." Emperor Bai smiled. In terms of fighting power, Jian Wushuang would still lose to Emperor Bai. However, Jian Wushuang had a lot of trump cards, such as secret skills of Star Palace, which allowed him to have fighting power 1,000 times more than normal, which would be far above that of Emperor Bai. Hence, Emperor Bai would not ask Jian Wushuang to treat him as though he was superior. All right, I will still call you Emperor Bai and neglect unnecessary etiquette. Jian Wushuang thought for a while before replying. Emperor Bai smiled as he whipped out a scroll. This scroll was the mountain river map. "This belongs to you. After you fell into slumber, I kept this treasure. Now that you awakened, I shall return it to its rightful owner," Emperor Bai said. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up with happiness. He took the treasure and put it in his Qian Kuan ring. During that battle, Jian Wushuang casted the 7th seal of the 9-province seal and killed the Blood Emperor before he fell into deep slumber. He did not have enough time to keep the mountain river map. "Jian Wushuang, did you receive this treasure from Xian Yi?" Emperor Bai asked out of nowhere. "Huh." Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows as he looked at Emperor Bai in surprise. Xian Yi was his master. He had appeared during the final battle. However, Jian Wushuang had never spoken his name, and Xian Yi had not introduced himself at all. How did Emperor Bai know of this name? "Emperor Bai, you know my master personally?" Jian Wushuang asked. "Your master? Of course I know him. Come, let me tell you a story. Once upon a time, back in the First Era, there was a little brat. He was the core disciple of his family. His family was very powerful and was the ruler of a territory. This little brat had a very high status within the family, hence he was a spoiled child. This little brat did everything he wanted to without giving it much thought. He would stir up trouble everywhere, but no one dared to stand up against him given how powerful his family was. This lasted until one day, this little brat provoked a clan that was much, much more powerful than his own family. Out of anger, that clan destroyed his entire family within 1 year and killed all of his loved ones. He was the only one that escaped. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang saw that Emperor Bai's eyes had started to tear up. Jian Wushuang understood immediately that that little brat was most likely Emperor Bai himself. "I never thought that the most powerful man from the First Era was once a rich brat. Furthermore, his actions led to the annihilation of his entire family," Jian Wushuang thought to himself. There were many rich brats in this world. However, they were not born this way, to be evil. They were like this because of their upbringing, which caused them to do things without giving much thought. Once these kind of rich brats experience great setbacks, they would either remain affected by the setback for the rest of their lives, or they would evolve into a better person. Emperor Bai was the latter. Even though the little brat managed to escape, he was extremely weak and powerless to do anything. There were assassins who were constantly after him. When he was desperate and was about to jump off a cliff, he met a mysterious man. This mysterious man managed to convince the little one not to jump. He was unwilling to resign himself to this fate. He felt anger, as this anger manifested into hatred. Under the effect of the words of the mysterious man, he wanted to take revenge. This mysterious man then gave him a cultivating technique called the heavenly creation skill. This teenage boy started to cultivate the technique and became very different from the remaining cultivators. His rate of growth was incredible and was unbeatable for the people in the same realm as him. He took one step at a time from being a weakling to becoming the most powerful man in the first era. He eventually destroyed his enemies and took revenge. Jian Wushuang's irises constricted. Heavenly creation skill, an inverse cultivation skill. This technique was given to him by a mysterious man. That mysterious man, Jian Wushuang, stared at Emperor Bai. Like you should have guessed, that little brat was me when I was young. The mysterious man who gave me the cultivating technique was your master, Xian Yi. Emperor Bai said, Chapter 22, for the secret to inverse cultivation. It's true. Jian Wushuang was right. That mysterious man was his master, Xian Yi. He had never thought that the inverse cultivating skill Emperor Bai had been given to him by Xian Yi. There were no inverse cultivators back in the ancient past. Emperor Bai is the first ever inverse cultivator in this world. That technique was given by my master. If that is the case, my master is the one who created the inverse cultivating skill. Jian Wushuang was in disbelief. Inverse cultivation. It was a brand new and unbelievable cultivating technique. Jian Wushuang was where he was due to this technique. As he got stronger, he slowly understood how powerful and terrifying this technique was. He had always wondered who had created such a powerful and magical cultivating technique. He knew that no matter who it was, it had to be someone incredible. Now, all the clues pointed to his master, Xian Yi. I have no idea whether this inverse cultivating technique was indeed created by your master. It might have been created by someone else and given to us through him. It does not matter. Your master is one of the most mysterious men I have ever met since the first era. Emperor Bai continued. People like Emperor 13 are incredibly powerful. He can partially ignore the restrictions of heaven and earth with his own power to reach the half-step divine demon realm. However, he is far less mysterious than your master, Xian Yi. Back in the first era, when I reached the 7th step of inverse cultivation, your master came to look for me. I asked him if he gave me the inverse cultivation technique, or if he wanted me to do anything for him. It was a pity that he did not give me a clear answer. He said that I did not meet his requirements, and he did not have any special requests. All he asked of me was to pass any future inverse cultivators the technique for the 7th step if I ever were to meet one. That's all. Jian Wushuang frowned. Emperor Bai was the first inverse cultivator to reach the 7th step. However, he never knew what Xian Yi had wanted to do or what he was really after. What were the requirements Xian Yi was talking about? After that, I have not seen your master at all. The first era collapsed, and the 2nd era started to prosper. Inverse cultivation started to gain popularity within the eternal chaotic world. However, only the first 5 steps were available to the general masses. Hence, These inverse cultivators could only reach the realm of universe God. Furthermore, there is the terrifying inverse cultivation test, which every inverse cultivator had to go through. Many of them died, and the only one who passed was Wu Bei. Even though he passed the inverse cultivation test and got the cultivation technique for the 6th step, he reached the peak of real God. That was where he was stuck, Emperor Bai said coldly. Jian Wushuang nodded his head to show he understood what Emperor Bai had just said. Emperor Bai had just said that Xian Yi had told him to pass the 7th step of inverse cultivation to anyone who had great talent. Real God Wu Bei. Jian Wushuang knew him. He had passed the inverse cultivation test and managed to enter the 6th step. However, he was not very talented. Emperor Bai would not pass the 7th step to such an ordinary cultivator. The next inverse cultivator who had managed to rise up was Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had passed the inverse cultivator test and proven himself to be one of the most talented cultivators in the eternal chaotic world. Here, Emperor Bai was not stingy and gave him the technique for the 7th step inverse cultivation. Jian Wushuang recalled the first time he had met Emperor Bai. Emperor Bai had been very intimate and peaceful. He did not act all high and mighty. Back then, Jian Wushuang had suspected this was because of Emperor 13. Now he thought about it. It might have been because of Emperor 13, but he was not the main reason. The real reason was because both of them were inverse cultivators. Understood. Jian Wushuang exclaimed to himself. Many of the doubts he had had were answered. However, he still had 2 burning questions. The first, whether inverse cultivation was created by his master Xian Yi, and what was his purpose of doing so if he did so. The second, Xian Yi's true identity. Jian Wushuang knew from past experience that Xian Yi came from the ancient past and had been a very influential and powerful man back then. He might be the reason why 7-star Black Sect was in danger, and the reason why many experts from the ancient past had fallen into deep slumber. What kind of identity and power did he have to create all this? Furthermore, Emperor 13 was from the 7-star Black Sect and was the leader of the 7 stars. If Xian Yi was the reason why the 7-star Black Sect had been annihilated, why was Emperor 13 helping him? To be honest, I envy you, Jian Wushuang, Emperor Bai said. Huh. Jian Wushuang looked at Emperor Bai, astonished. Mr. Xian Yi only passed me the inverse cultivating technique. He does not interact with me much. He took you in as a lineal disciple and gave you numerous treasures. He treats you no differently to the way you treat him. Emperor Bai muttered, envious. Emperor Bai thought that Jian Wushuang was someone who met the requirements and was the one who Xian Yi really needed. On the other hand, he did not meet the requirements and hence did not qualify for such treasures. Jian Wushuang smiled. He had to admit that Xian Yi really did treat him very well, just how a master should. Emperor Bai, thank you for all this info. Jian Wushuang thanked him gratefully. After Emperor Bai said all those things, many of the doubts that Jian Wushuang had disappeared. Now, he knew more about his master. Haha, you're welcome. I am looking forward to seeing what Xian Yi has in mind. Oh yes, this transmission token is for you. Emperor Bai laughed. Emperor Bai whipped out a token. This is... Jian Wushuang looked at the transmission token, confused. Emperor 13 asked me to pass this to you. He wants you to message him once you awaken. Emperor Bai said, is that the case? Jian Wushuang said as he fell into deep thought. Chapter 2205, there can only be one Emperor Bai left soon after. Within the garden, Jian Wushuang held the transmission token in his hands. Emperor 13, it is time we have a good talk. Let's not rush into this. Let me handle my other things first. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Jian Wushuang left the garden. On an empty ground within the Wushuang city, many figures were waiting. Some were standing while others sat cross-legged. Most of them came from the ancient god clan. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang appeared in front of these people. Ancient God Emperor. Greetings, Ancient God Emperor. The experts from the Special Tribes Alliance greeted Jian Wushuang with fanaticism. Many people were not convinced that Jian Wushuang was a competent leader initially. It could be because of his human bloodline. However, after the Great Battle, everyone within the Special Tribes Alliance and Sanctuary Alliance trusted him fully. This was especially the case for the Special Tribes Alliance. They only listened to someone very powerful. Jian Wushuang was definitely an incredibly powerful expert. Jian Wushuang looked at everyone and said, "I want to speak to Black Dragon Emperor personally. Can all of you please give us some space?" King Chun Xian, King Luoyu, and the rest were stunned. They looked at Jian Wushuang oddly before they walked off. Jian Wushuang and Black Dragon Emperor were left alone on the empty ground. Ancient God Emperor, Black Dragon Emperor smiled at Jian Wushuang. She was in black clothes and was stunning. Her crystal-clear skin was showing under her black clothes, which attracted the attention of many males. She also had an extremely cold aura. Without a doubt, she was extremely beautiful and attractive to the point where even great emperors would fall for her. Black Dragon Emperor, I have heard that you visited me frequently during the time I was in slumber. I know of your feelings, and I thank you for that. Jian Wushuang looked at Black Dragon Emperor and said, Black Dragon Emperor trembled slightly when she heard of this. Most people could have deduced that she had feelings for Jian Wushuang, given how she had acted over the years. Black Dragon Emperor admired Jian Wushuang greatly. She believed that Jian Wushuang knew about it. However, Jian Wushuang did not speak about it at all. Now he was talking about it. Black Dragon Emperor took a deep breath and looked at Jian Wushuang fondly and in anticipation. Her admiration for him was very clear. She was waiting for his reply. Black Dragon Emperor, you should know that I already have a wife, Jian Wushuang said. Yes, but from what I heard, she left a long time ago, Black Dragon Emperor said. During the time Jian Wushuang had been in slumber, she had gone and inquired about everything related to Jian Wushuang, including the fact that Jian Wushuang had a wife. She only left but is not dead. I will find her sooner or later and bring her back, Jian Wushuang said firmly. I don't mind, Black Dragon Emperor smiled. Jian Wushuang knitted his eyebrows. He did not expect Black Dragon Emperor to be so persistent. He looked at Black Dragon Emperor in the eye and said, I will not love a second person in my life. Hence, sorry. When the word sorry came out of Jian Wushuang's mouth, Black Dragon Emperor trembled and she turned pale. After a while, she looked up at Jian Wushuang. Her expression was not of pain or disappointment. She smiled at Jian Wushuang and said, I understand. Sorry for all the trouble, Ancient God Emperor. I will not trouble you anymore after today. She bowed slightly to Jian Wushuang before leaving. She left very quickly, as though she was running away from Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang stood there, looking at the back view of the Black Dragon Emperor. Even though he did not want to do this, all he could do was to shake his head. There was no way a forced relationship would work. Jian Wushuang already had someone in his heart. It was his wife, Long Wushuang. Even if his wife died, she would forever be his wife. Furthermore, his wife was still alive, and there was still a chance he could reunite with her. There was no way Jian Wushuang could see himself having two wives at the same time. After the Black Dragon Emperor left, the other experts from the Special Tribes Alliance walked up to him. They could figure out what had happened after they saw Black Dragon Emperor leaving the place. They could only sigh at the bottom of their hearts. Ancient God Emperor, isn't it a little too cruel to reject her so directly? King Chenexayan asked. Kirill, it might be cruel, but it's for the best. Jian Wushuang shook his head and said. Hearing this, the experts all nodded their heads. All right, everyone, go back to your own tribes. As for the Green Fire World, the experts from the Special Tribes Alliance too can come here as long as they obey the rules, Jian Wushuang said. King Chenexayan, I will not return to the ancient god clan for the time being. Please handle the internal matters together with King Luo Yu. If anything serious happens, you always can transmit a message to me. Yes. King Chenexayan and the other experts nodded their heads and left. Jian Wushuang was alone on the empty ground. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and sighed. Things will get messy if I drag it out. It is better if it is settled now. After shaking his head, Jian Wushuang whipped out the transmission token Emperor Bai had passed to him. Lord Emperor, 13. Jian Wushuang transmitted a message over. You awakened? Emperor 13 asked calmly, or rather coldly. Yes, Jian Wushuang replied as he nodded his head. Come to the place where we first met. I will wait for you there, Emperor 13 said, and stopped the transmission. The place where we first met. Chilly Wind Valley? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows as he smiled. He explained his plans to Wang Yuan and Jian Nantian before he left. Chilly Wind Valley, one of the special places on the ancient battlefield. Jian Wushuang was the first person to discover this place. He had come to explore this place several times, but he could never figure this place out. When he had explored the place after he had attained the battle power of an almighty, he had met Emperor 13. He had gotten a shock back then when Emperor 13 had appeared out of nowhere. Soon, Jian Wushuang reached the Oyu Thangserts of Chilly Wind Valley. Chapter 22:06 Inside the Head Inside Chilly Wind Valley. In the endless large dark hole, chill wind was blowing everywhere. Jian Wushuang recalled that when he was here for the first time, he had almost died to the chill winds. Now, the chill wind posed no threat to him. In the air above Chilly Wind Valley stood a man in a white cloak. Lord Emperor 13. Jian Wushuang greeted as he bowed lightly. Emperor 13 looked at Jian Wushuang and said, Follow me. Emperor 13 dashed into the Chilly Wind Valley. Even though Jian Wushuang had many unanswered questions, he dashed in without hesitation. Jian Wushuang followed behind Emperor 13 as they traveled at terrifying speed. A while later, Jian Wushuang saw these gigantic white jades. Have we reached the bottom of the Chilly Wind Valley? Jian Wushuang asked. This was where he met Emperor 13 for the first time. He had been surprised by Emperor 13 when they first met. Jian Wushuang was surprised when he saw Emperor 13 maintain his speed even as they approached these jades. Boom! The jades opened up and created a pathway for Emperor 13 to pass through. What? This is not the bottom of the valley? Jian Wushuang was astonished. He had initially thought that they had reached the bottom of the valley. This was not the case. He followed Emperor 13 deeper into the valley. The further they went, the more surprised Jian Wushuang became. Chilly Wind Valley is far too deep. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. From the entrance of Chilly Wind Valley to where he was then, they had at least traveled tens of millions of kilometers, yet they were still not at the bottom of the valley. They were not close to the bottom either, as the way forward was still pitch black. Even though Jian Wushuang was surprised, he maintained his speed. Another 7 minutes or so passed. Finally, they reached the bottom of the valley. Is this where the bottom of the valley truly lies? Jian Wushuang scanned his surroundings. The ground was scarlet red, just like a human's flesh. There were clouds of bloody mist around him. The most obvious structure was another passageway at one side. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes when he saw this passageway. The Chilly Wind Valley was not too far away from Greenfire World, and Greenfire World was located at the center of the forehead of a humongous head. The head was the most unbelievable thing Jian Wushuang had ever seen. Chilly Wind Valley was located right below the head. He followed Emperor 13 all the way down to the point that Jian Wushuang forgot how far he had traveled before he got here. He knew that he was inside the head, no matter if it was Greenfire World or the other unique sites of opportunity. They were located at the surface of the head. Now, Jian Wushuang entered the inside of that head. What would he find inside the head? Jian Wushuang's mind was racing. The head was the most valuable and mysterious place compared to the rest of the ancient battlefield. When Jian Wushuang looked through the formation on this head, the cultivators from the Greenfire World did try to enter this head and explore the interior, but to no avail. The furthest they could go was about a few million kilometers, as the skin of this head was extremely tough. Today, he had reached the interior of the head. "Let's go," Emperor 13 said coldly as he walked into the passageway. Jian Wushuang thought to himself silently for a moment before following Emperor 13. The passageway was very big. The first noticeable things were the crimson walls at both sides. Jian Wushuang knew that he was inside a real head. He could not help but mutter to himself, "Are these walls really made out of flesh and blood?" He walked along the passageway for a short while. An open space appeared in Jian Wushuang's vision. On this open ground stood many crimson statues. When these statues saw Emperor 13 and Jian Wushuang walking over towards them, they turned alive as their crimson eyes opened. They were filled with killing intent as these eyes turned towards Jian Wushuang and Emperor 13. An extremely strong sense of danger rose in Jian Wushuang's heart when he saw these crimson eyes. He was startled. These statues, Jian Wushuang was sure that every single one of these statues was extremely powerful. Luckily, these statues did not attack and only looked at them once before closing their eyes. This could have been because of Emperor 13. Emperor 13 led the way forward as he walked past all of these statues. These statues should be the guardians of this passageway, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. In the ancient past, experts would have left special measures in their caves or sites of opportunities. Just like the expert from the ancient past, Wu Hun, he had left behind many Dao soldiers around him to stop the weaker cultivators from entering to startle him. In this passageway that Emperor 13 had brought Jian Wushuang through, they were within the humongous head. All the valuable secrets should be hidden here, hence there should contain several measures along the way. Apart from the crimson statues, Jian Wushuang saw numerous special measures. There were many sophisticated formations, traps, and even more guards. When the guards deeper in the passageway opened its eyes, Jian Wushuang's head went blank. These guards must have unimaginable power. With these measures, it would be impossible for even great emperors to enter. They would most probably die. Even if the emperor by entered, he might be able to survive due to his unique constitution, but he would never reach the deepest part of the passageway. The only reason Jian Wushuang could reach so far in was because of Emperor 13. At the end of the passageway was the core of the humongous head. Here, it was a vast, dark space. This dark space was limitless and endless. At the center of this dark space, a province floated peacefully. Chapter 22:07 Ancient Display Whoosh. Wush, Emperor 13, and Jian Wushuang appeared on this floating land. Once he set foot on the land, Jian Wushuang looked up and saw a platform. This platform was extremely big. There were 99,999 steps leading up to the platform. At the end of the steps, at the top of the platform, stood a throne. There was a figure sitting on this throne. It was a bold man with sharp eyebrows. His eyes looked as though they were the sun and moon. He sat there, looking down at everything with dignity. It was as though everything in this world submitted to him, and he was the sole ruler of this world. Jian Wushuang stared at the bold man on top of the platform. That man looked familiar as his facial features were the same as the gigantic head. Without a doubt, this was the owner of that gigantic head. Suddenly, the man who sat on the throne looked down at Jian Wushuang. His eyes were moving slowly as though they were a galaxy. Under that stare, Jian Wushuang felt that the world lost its colors. The surrounding scene started to change quickly. He was looking at the highest point in this world. Here, it was as though he was standing beside heaven. Here, he saw the same bold man. This man was unimaginably large. Is this how big he really is? Jian Wushuang was stunned. The size of the head was already gigantic. Green fire world was at the center of the forehead, but its size was negligible compared to the rest of the head. If the head was already this big, then how big was his whole body? Jian Wushuang looked at the complete divine body of this bold man. He was amazed. At this moment, Jian Wushuang noticed that this place was surrounded by thunderous clouds as a unique aura gathered and started to suppress him. It tried to tear him apart and annihilate him. This aura was heaven's will. This bold man was making an enemy with heaven's will. Suddenly, the bold man looked up and his eyes burned with determination. I will fight the heavens. I will fight the earth. I will fight this world just to attain the ultimate doctrine. If the heavens were to stop me, I would tear them apart. If the earth were to stop me, I would split it apart. If everyone in this world were to stop me, I would kill everyone. His majestic words forced the surrounding heavens will back a great distance. You could hear the angry roars and shoutings, but none dared to continue their suppression. This Jian Wushuang was stunned. His head was dizzy at this unbelievable scene. The man's words were ringing in his ears. If the heavens were to stop me, I would tear them apart. If the earth were to stop me, I would split it apart. If everyone in this world were to stop me, I would kill everyone. How domineering was that? How much confidence did that man have? A single look forced back the heavens' will. In front of him, even heaven's will had to give way. Boom. Jian Wushuang was still in shock as the scene changed. This time, it was the scene of a vast battlefield. The battle had long started on this battlefield. The entire sky was tinted crimson red. The heavens, at the highest point of the battlefield, had many cracks as water was leaking out from it. It was evident that there was a hole in the heavens. On the ground below, worlds started to crumble as infinite amounts of living things were annihilated and died instantly. Many super powerful experts died in this battle. Many of their bodies turned into mountains or seas of blood. This was the ancient battlefield, and this was the ultimate battle that had caused the end of the ancient past era. The battle was nearing the end. Many of the experts who were battling it out crazily stopped. At the center of the battlefield stood a humongous, bold man. A spear pierced through his chest and heart. This spear contained an incredible corrosive power, which continuously corroded his divine body. This injury should have been fatal. However, he stood tall even though there was a spear through his body. The heavens will continually suppress him from above. He scanned his surroundings. Everything within his vision subsided. Aside from the suppression from heaven's will, trillions of experts in the divine demon realm and countless experts stood there, staring at him with great killing intent. There were 3 people at the front. The first man was a bald man in white cloak. He was constantly smiling and was barefooted. He stood there in the sunlight as white light flashed off his skin. He gave off a peaceful and holy vibe. The second person was a woman in a crimson cloak. She had an extremely cold vibe and felt like no one could compare to her. She was just standing there, but many of the experts in the divine demon realm wanted to bow down to her. The last man was a demon king of his era. He wore purple armor and had a very big body. He held a crimson spear and was standing on top of his crimson dragon. He radiated a demonic aura. These 3 experts fixed their gazes on the bold man with great killing intent. They were ready to deliver the killing blow. Right then, the bold man said majestically, "I live my life proudly. How can I die at the hands of mere mortals like you? Die along with me." As soon as he finished speaking, his incredibly gigantic divine body started to crumble, starting from his limbs. Only his head was left. Then, a terrifying power swept forth in all directions. The entire ancient battlefield threatened to crumble. Heavens will dissipated, and heaven cracked into pieces. The entire earth shattered. It was an apocalypse.